Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about What If Deku Awoke a Hidden Power Part 1. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story AniMegStories from AO3. So let's start the video. Midoriya woke up, feeling a massive headache and achy all over the place. Something didn't feel right, so he got up to check on something. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary as he got up to go to the restroom. He felt achy as he walked over to the mirror and splashed some cold water on his face. He looked at himself and noticed that he looked a little pale. He didn't know what was bothering him so much, but whatever it was, he hoped that it wouldn't get in the way of school in the morning. He felt a little warm and maybe even sweaty. He noticed that the air conditioner wasn't working, so he wondered if he was just overheating. He did have a heavy blanket over him. He turned it on and felt that cool breeze coming out of it. It felt so good that he decided to stand there for a few minutes. It felt so relaxing that he could fall asleep standing up. He didn't know if he should go get some water and then go to bed or not. He didn't want to wake anyone up. He soon felt a little better and headed out of his dorm room. He quietly headed over to the elevator and realized that everyone around his room were still asleep. It seemed pretty quiet, so he kept going. Soon enough, he was already heading over to the common room. As he waited for the elevator to open, he felt a little bit of that heat coming back. He thought he would feel better once he got some water, but he did still feel a little out of it. Just that he wasn't sick or anything like that. He couldn't fall behind in his studies, not while he's been doing so well with a couple of his classes. Soon enough, he made it out of the elevator. He then noticed that a couple of his classmates had fallen asleep on the couches in the common room. He even noticed Uraraka asleep on one of them with the TV still on. He couldn't help but smile as he looked over at her. He even noticed that her face looked rosier than usual. He felt his heart flutter seeing her cozy on the couch with Ishido and Jiraiya. He didn't want to wake her up, so he walked over to the kitchen to grab some water. He felt a little dizzy as he reached out to grab a cup, but he tried to shake it off. Midoriya didn't understand why he felt this way, but tried to focus on what he was doing. What he didn't realize was that Uraraka had heard him come over. He poured some water into the cup and took a big gulp of it to help him calm down. He could feel the cold water run down his throat and it felt so good. Soon he filled it up some more, but felt something off again. He felt a bit hotter as he got more water. He could have sworn that sweat streamed down his face as he took another sip. He even grabbed a paper towel, rang it under the sink and patted his forehead down with it. Midoriya felt a little dizzy and didn't know if he should go get Mr. Aizawa or not. Once he put down his cup of water, he thought he heard someone approach him. He turned around and spotted Uraraka, who was half asleep. He wasn't expecting her and almost dropped the cup of water. He even felt dizzy when he turned around to see her. He gripped his head, but tried to place it off as if he just got out of bed. "Izuku, are you okay?" "I don't look so good," Uraraka asked him with a concerned look on her face. "Why, yeah, I'm okay, just a little tired," Midoriya said back, still feeling a little dizzy. Midoriya took a sip of his water, and Uraraka noticed that he was sweating a little. She came over to him and felt his forehead. Her eyes widened in shock, and Midoriya could tell that she was worried about him. "Izuku, you're not fine. You have a fever," Uraraka said back. "I should get Mr. Aizawa. You need recovery, girl. And no. Please don't wake up Mr. Aizawa. I am sure I'll feel fine when I wake up in the morning," Midoriya explained to her. "But Izuku," Uraraka said under her breath. "I'll go see Mr. Aizawa and recovery girl in the morning if I don't feel good, okay?" Midoriya said to her. Midoriya could tell that she was hesitant to let him go to bed, but she knew that he needed his rest. She got in closer and gave him an embrace on the cheek. "Okay, Izuku. If you say so," Uraraka said to him. "Do you need help getting to your dorm room?" "And no, I'll be fine," Midoriya said back. "I just need to go to bed. You should get some sleep too." Midoriya gave her an embrace on the cheek and headed up to his dorm room. He could tell that Uraraka was a bit concerned about him, but he knew or hoped that he would feel better in the morning. He felt his forehead and could tell that he felt pretty warm from the blankets. Whether he had a fever or not, he hoped that it would go away soon. As he walked into his dorm room, he took a sip of his water and placed it on the nightstand. He felt like his dorm room was still a little warm, but hoped the air conditioner would help soon. He pulled off his blanket and climbed into bed. He felt a little dizzy, but not as much as a few minutes ago. Something about his dizziness and headache felt little different. He couldn't pinpoint what it was about it that made him feel weird, but he thought that he would figure out in the morning. All he wanted was to go back to bed. He laid down and felt so comfy in his bed. He didn't even want his blanket, but he already felt himself relax and doze off. Before he knew it, he was asleep in his air-conditioned bedroom. As he fell asleep, however, something inside of him felt a little off. Something that didn't used to be his. Midoriya stirred in his bed, feeling something come over him. Something was bothering him as he slept in his dorm room. He could feel 𝐽 flowing through him, but something about it felt off. He didn't know why it felt this way, but something about it made him freak out. He gripped onto his pillow, feeling a surge of power flow through him. He could feel it coming, and then all at once it just stopped. Then he shot upright, feeling like he just ran a marathon. He tried to get himself to calm down, but it took a while to do anything about it. When he looked down at his hand, he noticed that 𝐽 was activated just like last time. He remembered how it felt to have that dream of 𝐽. It felt like the power activated on its own accord. All he could do was stare his hand, and it just went away. The power of 𝐽 had finally calmed down. Midoriya soon looked around his room and noticed that his room didn't look like a mess. The last time this happened, he destroyed the window and wrecked some of his things. He was just glad that his dorm room wasn't in shambles. At least he wouldn't have to tell anyone about this mess that he made. Then he heard a knock at the door. It was quiet, but loud enough to wake him up. "Hey Izuku. It's me. Are you awake?" "Achiko," he said under his breath. Midoriya got up a little too quickly and felt his head get a little bit lightheaded. He felt his forehead and noticed that he wasn't burning up like before. He still felt a little warm, but not like last night. He could tell that he might have just overheated, but then that thing happened with his quirk. He got a little worried, but tried to shake it off for now. Right now, he just wanted to go to school with his girlfriend. He quickly got dressed, but felt like at least letting Uraraka know that he was awake. "Why yeah, Achiko. I'm okay," Midoriya said back through the door. "Just give me a minute." Soon Midoriya got dressed with his tie half done. He tried to get it ready, but was struggling to get it through as he rushed. He stopped trying to fix it and grabbed his backpack. Once he opened the door, he spotted Uraraka's face looking less worried about him. Something about seeing in the morning made him feel so much better. He smiled at her and felt his headache go away. "Hey Achiko. Did you have a good night's sleep?" Midoriya asked her. "I should be asking you the same thing," Uraraka said back to him. "You look better. Do you have a fever?" Uraraka leaned and felt his forehead. He felt a little red when she touched his forehead, but didn't back away. He held her hand and pulled it gently away from his forehead. "I'm okay, Achiko. I just needed some rest, that's all," Midoriya explained to her. "Besides, I might have accidentally turned off the air conditioner. I just got overheated, that's all." Uraraka gave him a look, but then relaxed when she noticed how bright his face was. She smiled and squeezed his hand, happy to see him feeling better. "Well, I'm glad that you feel better," Uraraka said to him. "Come on, you don't want to be late for school." "Yeah. Especially what's been going with a few of us in class lately," Midoriya said back as they headed out. "Have you talked to 𝐀𝐦 at all lately?" "Not really. I've been too busy with homework to even talk to her over the phone," Uraraka said to her. "Besides, I'm sure she's busy with other things as well." Midoriya held Uraraka's hand and felt a sense of relief as they entered the elevator. Once they headed down to the common room, he felt a little dizzy from the movement. He thought that the dizziness was gone, but it came back so easily. It wasn't as strong as before, but it still threw him off a little. He really wanted to just go to school and hoped 𝐸𝐸 didn't notice. They soon exited the elevator and noticed that everyone from Class 1A was here. They all were eating breakfast and even had some granola bars for anyone who wasn't that hungry. 𝐸𝐸 and Midoriya spotted Iida and ran over to him. He was just making sure that everyone was here and soon spotted Midoriya. "Hey Midoriya. I hope that you had a good night's sleep last night," Iida said to him. Midoriya wondered if 𝐸𝐸 told him, but she didn't look guilty or anything like that. "Yeah, I did. I just had a strong time falling asleep," Midoriya said back as he scratched the back of his head. Midoriya could tell that 𝐸𝐸 was still worried about him. He didn't want her to, but she kept looking over at him. Soon they both grabbed something to eat and drink. Midoriya and 𝐸𝐸 grabbed some orange juice and gulped it down pretty fast. Something about the orange juice felt so refreshing, and he kept gulping it down until he drank every last sip of it. 𝐸𝐸 noticed and couldn't help but laugh. She gave Midoriya a couple of granola bars, and he took them since they were heading out. He felt a slight headache coming, but tried to ignore it. He wondered if he was still overheated and drank a little bit of water before leaving. Whatever it was, he felt better once he got out of his dorm room. Midoriya and 𝐸𝐸 walked with everyone in their class while holding hands. Iida joined them, which made Midoriya feel even better. He felt a little lightheaded as he headed over to the school, but he tried to focus on getting over there. Something about it felt off, especially when tried to shake it off. Midoriya hoped that going outside would help him cool down since it's the beginning of spring. It was still cool outside, and he hoped that this would help get rid of that feeling. He wanted to keep going and held 𝐸𝐸's hand. He barely looked at her as he tried to focus on getting to school. Something inside of him felt a little off, which made him worry about One for All. Whatever was going on, he hoped that it had nothing to do with it. "Midoriya, are you sure that you're okay?" Iida asked him. "You look like you don't feel good." Midoriya looked at Iida and 𝐸𝐸, and they both looked concerned for him. Even a few of his classmates noticed them talking and looked just as concerned as them. He noticed 𝗵𝘃𝗀 walking to school with Kirishima. He too looked a little bit like he might be worried for him. That look on his face made him wonder if something was wrong with One for All. He had to talk to All Might. "I am okay." "Really guys," Midoriya said back, "I just couldn't sleep last night. I should feel better in no time." Midoriya noticed that they were still worried, especially 𝐸𝐸. He could tell that she wanted to know what was going on, but he couldn't tell her. He wished that he could, but him and All Might agreed to keep between them and 𝗵𝘃𝗀 only. She couldn't know about One for All. Something about it made him feel a bit sad that she had no idea. He wondered if she should know, but shook it off. He knew now was not the time for this. Soon enough, they were all in the school. Midoriya was so quiet as they headed to their classroom. He kept his grip around 𝐸𝐸's hand and never let go. He looked at her, and she smiled back with such a genuine smile. It made his heart flutter and squeezed her hand back for support. Something about it made him feel better, but also wanted to tell her. Before he could think about it some more, Mr. Aizawa slid the class door open. He looked about ready to teach, and they all filed in. Soon enough, they all sat in their regular seats. Midoriya sat behind 𝗵𝘃𝗀 just like always. He looked over at 𝐸𝐸 and knew that she'd be okay. Soon enough, classes started. After classes went by pretty slow for Midoriya. As he sat through all of those classes, he could feel his head hurt here and there. It would come and go as he wrote down some notes. His dizziness wasn't that bad as he sat in his seat for a good while. For a while, he thought that maybe he's feeling a lot better. He still wanted to talk to All Might soon. Whatever was going on, he couldn't understand if it was One for All or not. He kept telling himself that it was just the air conditioner and being overheated. Even the headache felt like it was just from working on schoolwork for a while. After classes, it was finally time for lunch. Once he stood up, he felt really dizzy and almost fell over. Bakugo ended up catching him, which was embarrassing. Midoriya hoped that he wasn't suspicious or anything like that. He knew that Bakugo can catch on pretty quickly what's going on with him. He waved it off and said that he tripped over his shoelaces. During lunch, Midoriya noticed that he wasn't that hungry for katsudon. He picked at it, but that was about it. Something about it just wasn't appetizing to him at the moment. He didn't even want to be in the cafeteria at the moment. Something about it bothered him and knew that it had something to do with what happened with One for All this morning. He just hoped that things were okay with his quirk now. He just hoped that no one was noticing how quiet he was. Once he was done with lunch, they all soon headed back to their classes. Those ones seemed to fly by quicker since it was almost time for hero training. Midoriya was a little nervous to be using One for All and hoped that it wasn't anything intense. Soon enough, everyone was in their hero costumes and ready for some hero training. Midoriya felt a little dizzy putting on his hero costume and almost fell onto 𝐸𝐸. He was so embarrassed that he kept doing this. That seemed to get 𝐸𝐸's attention, however. Midoriya, maybe you should sit out of this one, 𝐸𝐸 said to him. I normally wouldn't tell you to do this, but clearly something is bothering you. Do you not feel good? And no. I'm fine, Midoriya said to him, just feeling a little off. Today is all. Midoriya noticed Bakugo eyeing him. He looked away subtly, trying not to make it obvious that it was about One for All. He just wanted to get over to Gym Gamma. Whatever was going on, he would talk to All Might about it later. Are you sure? Maybe I can take you to Recovery Girl, 𝐸𝐸 said back. Don't worry about it, 𝐸𝐸. I'll go see her after hero training, Midoriya told him. Midoriya soon went back to changing into his hero costume. He could tell that everyone was watching him and were worried. He really didn't want to accidentally reveal anything about One for All. He couldn't let that happen again since he did it once with Bakugo. Once everyone was changed, they all headed out and towards Gym Gamma. They all headed over pretty quickly, and Midoriya felt a bit better once he got outside. They soon opened the doors and found Mr. Aizawa there along with 𝐸𝐸𝐻 and ectoplasm. Midoriya slumped his shoulder, disappointed that All Might wasn't here. He was really hoping that he would be here for hero training. Just having him around made him feel better, especially since he felt a bit off today. Alright everyone. We're here to improve on your quirks today, Mr. Aizawa told them. 𝐸𝐸𝐻 and ectoplasm are here to help you all out. Midoriya's eyes widened and worried that this was going to happen. He was hoping that it would be more about combat training or something that didn't rely on quirks as much. This was going to be a long hero training session. Mr. Aizawa, where is All Might? Is he not available at the moment? 𝐸𝐸 asked him with his arm up. He's busy at the moment. He had to go out for a while to deal with some school papers. He should be back later tonight, Mr. Aizawa told them. Midoriya was worried that he might be able to talk to All Might tonight. He really wanted to have him here to help him out. He was the only one that could understand what was going on with his quirk. He really wanted to hold back with One for All today, but he had to at least try using it. He looked down at his hand and felt like something was still off. Midoriya hoped that One for All would be okay. Alright, let's begin. Midoriya and everyone else spread out with an ectoplasm clone for everyone in Gym Gamma. They all hero trained with one of them, giving them something to improve with. Midoriya wished that he had All Might with him. Don't him wrong, he liked hero training with ectoplasm, but today he really needed his help at the moment. He was hesitant to even use One for All as he walked up to his clone. You ready to start, Midoriya? Ectoplasm asked him. Midoriya looked down at his hand and worried that he might lose control. He didn't want this to end up like Class 1A and 1B's battle that they went through. He could feel One for All flowing through him very subtly and worried about what might happen. He clenched his fist, deciding to play it safe. Actually, I was wondering if there was something else that I could improve on today, Midoriya said to him. I feel like I've done a lot with Quirk lately. I was thinking maybe I could improve more on my combat skills instead. I feel like that needs more improvement. He could tell that ectoplasm was a bit thrown off this. He wanted to try this out at least to see if he could handle his dizziness at the moment. Ectoplasm looked over at Mr. Aizawa, who was watching them from down below. They were standing a little high up on some cement slabs to hero training. Midoriya looked at Mr. Aizawa, and he looked like he noticed them talking to each other. Well, Mr. Aizawa did say it was more about quirk improvements today. Maybe you should talk to him about it for a moment. We've got plenty of time, Ectoplasm said to him. Midoriya nodded and ran over to Mr. Aizawa. Some of his classmates noticed him, but he tried not to pay attention to them. He spotted Uraraka, who noticed him right away. Something about her made him wonder if she was catching on to anything suspicious. He shook it off for now and went over to Mr. Aizawa. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Aizawa, but I was wondering if I could practice on my combat training instead, Midoriya asked him. Mr. Aizawa's eyes looked at him a little suspiciously, and Midoriya knew that he wanted to know why. I was just thinking that my quirk has been pretty strong lately. I feel like I need more improvement on combat training more at the moment, Midoriya pointed out. Mr. Aizawa stared at him, and Midoriya stiffened up as he thought about it for a while. Midoriya hoped that he would at least consider it. He just wished that All Might was still here. He really needed him for this training session. Soon Mr. Aizawa sighed and was clearly annoyed. Midoriya, I know that you've been through some weird things lately, but you should really listen to me when it's time for hero training. If I let you do whatever you want now, then you'll keep asking me to do it. I can't let you go off track and lag behind everyone else. I'd rather you stick with what everyone else is doing, at least for tonight, Mr. Aizawa said to him. Midoriya couldn't believe what he was hearing. He understood what he was saying, but he couldn't do this with his quirk acting out. He had to tell him or at least hint at it. But, Mr. Aizawa activated his quirk, making his eyes glow red. His hair stood up on its end, making Midoriya flinch on the spot. That's enough. Please just go back to hero training, Mr. Aizawa demanded, we'll talk about this later. Midoriya's eyes widened and stepped back a bit. He soon walked over to Ectoplasm and couldn't stop staring at his hand. Something about One for All felt off, especially when he got ready to hero train. He felt a little dizzy when he walked up to his cement slab, but tried to shake it off. He really wanted to at least pull back a bit on the quirk, maybe start with a flick. Looks like you're stuck doing quirk improvement tonight. Don't worry about it so much. You can always do some combat training tomorrow, Ectoplasm told him. Midoriya knew that, but he really didn't want to have his quirk freak out like last time. He took a deep breath in and out and got ready to hero train. Okay, what should I improve on, sir? Midoriya asked him. Well, maybe you could use one of your special moves so I can see what you've been doing lately, Ectoplasm said to him. Midoriya was a little nervous to use his quirk, but he set his hand up to use it for flicking. He focused on One for All, but tried to hold back a bit of energy. As soon as he felt it flow through him, something about it felt different. He couldn't pinpoint what it was, but something about it made him feel dizzy. Then somehow he was able to release a burst of wind out of his finger. It made his arm hurt a little from the force, but held it in place. Ectoplasm analyzed his special move, and Midoriya couldn't tell what he was thinking. Well, I can tell that you've improved a lot since the last time we did this, Ectoplasm said to him. I can tell that All Might has been a good influence on you, but it looks like you're trying to hold back. I heard what happened during the Class 1A and 1B battles. If you're nervous about that happening again, don't worry about it. Mr. Aizawa is right here to help you deactivate your quirk. Midoriya didn't even think about that. He felt a little better knowing that Mr. Aizawa was right there to help out. He nodded, but did feel a little dizzy from that special move. One for All didn't even seem to be relaxing all that much once he stopped using it. He wanted to try again, but something felt off again. He tried to shake it off and aimed away from him and Ectoplasm. He let off another burst of wind, causing his hair to blow from the pressure. He felt like the wind was much stronger than he wanted it to be. He was at least glad that Black WHP didn't activate all by itself this time around. Good. That was better, Ectoplasm said to him. It looks like your quirk has been improving a lot since that battle with Class 1B. He looked down at his arm and noticed that one for all was flowing through him even when he didn't activate it. It was happening again. He tried to turn it off, but it wouldn't stop. Midoriya tried to turn it off, but it wouldn't listen to him. He felt a little dizzy and lightheaded from the power flowing through him. He wanted to shut it off, but the dizziness was just making it worse. Midoriya looked at ectoplasm, and his teacher knew right away that something was wrong. Ectoplasm, something is wrong with my quirk, Midoriya said to him through clenched teeth. Ectoplasm's eyes widened and gave some information to his other clone right by Mr. Aizawa. He seemed to understand what was going on and turned on his quirk from a distance. Midoriya looked at Mr. Aizawa, but nothing happened. He noticed that his hair was standing up on end, which meant that his quirk was on. He looked down at his arm and noticed that nothing had changed. One for all was still on. Midoriya his heart skip a beat, and his eyes widened in shock noticing that one for all wasn't responding to Mr. Aizawa's quirk cancelling power. Then he noticed that something wasn't feeling very good. He could feel one for all's energy flowing all over him, but it made him feel dizzy and lightheaded. Even his headaches were coming back as he tried to turn it off. He could feel something coming up as one for all kept flowing through him. Midoriya was worried that Black WHP might activate. Mr. Aizawa, something's wrong. Midoriya cried out. Everyone froze in place and looked at Midoriya. Class 1A noticed that Midoriya was having trouble with one for all. Uraraka's eyes widened in shock, and she worried that he wasn't feeling good again. Then she noticed that he was having trouble with his quirk again. Midoriya stared at Mr. Aizawa, and he looked shocked that his quirk wasn't working on him. Mr. Aizawa ran over to him, but then Midoriya felt something coming over one for all. It felt a wind pressure was forming around his arm, and he couldn't stop it. He felt really dizzy and couldn't focus on what was going on. He tried to shut off his quirk, but it just kept building. It felt like something was going to burst right out of his arm. It felt like Black WHP was coming, but there was no sign of it anywhere. What's wrong, Midoriya? Mr. Aizawa asked him as he ran over to his student. Mr. Aizawa. Don't come any closer. Midoriya cried out, I can't hold it back any longer. Midoriya noticed that everyone was worried about him as he felt one for all flowing through him. The wind blew through his hair as the power of one for all kept building up all around his arm. He could feel it about to burst out, but he didn't want to hurt anyone. His head hurt so much from the pressure, and his dizziness was making it difficult to concentrate or focus on what he was doing. He even felt like he was going to pass out right there. Before he knew it, Uraraka's cords from her gauntlets shot out towards him. It latched onto a cement slab and shot her across the gym. Midoriya's eyes widened in shock, noticing how quickly she was willing to help him. It reminded him of back then when she jumped and helped him with Black WHP. He couldn't let her get hurt again. Ochako! Get away! Midoriya cried out. Before Midoriya stopped it, he felt one for all burst out of his arm like a huge gust of wind. Everyone took cover, and ectoplasm covered them from any flying debris. Mr. Aizawa had to duck and dodge oncoming debris as well. Midoriya felt the wind pressure escape from his arm and felt it push him towards the wall. He was so dizzy and out of it that he didn't even know if Uraraka was okay. He felt like the wind wasn't ever going to die down as it kept going. Something about one for all wasn't letting up and kept releasing wind all around them. Mr. Aizawa couldn't even cancel his quirk, which worried Midoriya. One for all, stop it. Midoriya cried out, even though the wind blocked out his crying out, just stop. Midoriya felt really dizzy, and his headache felt less intense as the wind began to settle down. Then he felt something off about it again. It felt like someone was trying to tell him something. Before he make it out, the wind pressure just suddenly stopped. He felt so dizzy and lightheaded that he could barely tell what just happened. He felt like he was overheating again as he began to fall to the ground. Then he felt someone come in and catch him. It was Uraraka. "Oh Ochako," Midoriya said under his breath. Midoriya felt so comfy and safe in her arms that he immediately passed out. For a moment, he thought he saw 8 shimmering colors trying to reaching out for him. It looked like it was glitching, and Midoriya knew that something was wrong with One for All. In Gym Gamma, Uraraka held Midoriya in his arms, feeling like something was wrong with Midoriya's quirk. She didn't know what was going on with him, but seeing him going through that made her realize that he had more than just a fever. She didn't know what just happened, but it felt similar to when Black WHP went out of control. She didn't think that this would ever happen again. She felt Midoriya's forehead and flinched when he felt really hot and sweaty. He was even breathing a little heavy, which bothered her. What just happened? Is Midoriya okay? Ida asked them. That was an insanely strong move that he just did, Kaminari commented. I don't think that was a special move, Kaminari, Jiraiya said to him. What was that though? It felt a hurricane in the gym, Ishido commented as well. Uraraka looked around to see everyone worried about Midoriya. Then Mr. Aizawa came running up to them and took a look at him. She wondered if they should stop hero training and take him to Recovery Girl. Mr. Aizawa. Something's wrong with Izuku. He had a fever last night, Uraraka explained to them, but mostly Mr. Aizawa. He said that he was fine, but clearly things have gotten worse. Mr. Aizawa looked at him and could tell that Midoriya was going through something. Whatever was bothering him, they all had to get him to the nurse's office. He didn't want to cancel hero training, but he knew that everyone wouldn't be able to train with what just happened. He felt Midoriya's forehead and flinched, realized that he really was not feeling too good. Alright everyone. It's time to wrap things up, Mr. Aizawa said to all of them. Midoriya is not feeling too good. You can either wrap things up here and go to the dormitory or come to the nurse's office to help me and Uraraka out. Bakugo, can you help us bring Midoriya to the nurse's office? Everyone was instantly worried about Midoriya, especially Uraraka. She wanted to help him in any way she could, but she knew that Mr. Aizawa and Bakugo wouldn't leave him alone. Bakugo came over and helped Uraraka carry him on the other side of his arm. They both tried to carry him, but Uraraka was having trouble with it. Bakugo and Uraraka made it out of the gym when Bakugo lifted him up and carried him. Uraraka couldn't hold him for much longer without accidentally dropping him. Bakugo carried him while Mr. Aizawa and a few others came with them. Uraraka could tell that Ida wanted to help out as Class Republic, but he let a few of them go in his place. He had to look after his class and make sure everyone was okay. Todoroki, Yaoyorozu, Kirishima, Kaminari and Jiraiya all wanted to make sure that he was okay. They would all text or call any of their friends to make sure that they knew everything was okay. Midoriya looked a little heavy to carry, but Uraraka let Bakugo take care of things. She appreciated him carrying Midoriya, considering him and Midoriya haven't been butting heads as of lately. She even noticed that he didn't burst out yelling insults at Midoriya as much as he used to. Bakugo and Uraraka exchanged a look at each other and didn't know what to say. Uraraka could tell that he was uncomfortable talking to her while he was carrying her. She wanted to talk to him just to make things less awkward, but didn't know what to talk about. Uraraka then noticed that some of them were glancing over at Midoriya. He looked like he was sweating quite a lot. His breathing was still a little heavy as they brought him to the nurse's office. Dude, are you sure that he's okay, Uraraka? Kaminari asked her. I mean, you are the one that said that he wasn't feeling too good. He might just have a fever. He looked like he wasn't feeling that great, but I think hero training just bothered him a lot more than usual today, Uraraka explained. Uraraka then noticed the way Bakugo looked at Midoriya. Something in his eyes made her realize that there might be something else going on. She didn't want to ask what it was with a few of their classmates around. She was definitely going to talk to him about this soon. I hope he's feeling okay. That windstorm was pretty crazy strong, Kirishima pointed out. I've never felt anything like it before. It was pretty strong. I've never seen his quirk let out so much wind pressure before, Yaoyorozu said back as she thought about some more. It was a little strange how similar it was to when he used his special move, Black WHP. Yeah, you're right. It did feel like that battle between Class 1A and B, Todoroki said to her, but none of us were there. Only Uraraka felt what it was like. Uraraka noticed everyone looking at her, and she didn't know what they were getting at. "𝐸𝐻𝐸. Did he say anything to you about this?" Kaminari asked her. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 thought about for a moment and noticed that Bakugo kept looking at them. He didn't even speak up or anything like that. It made her a little more suspicious as to what was going on. It had to do something with his quirk, but she didn't know what it was exactly. Maybe his fever messed with his quirk somehow. Other than that, he didn't say anything to me last night, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said to him. All he told me was that he accidentally turned off the air conditioner. He got overheated, I guess. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 trailed off and noticed that Bakugo flinched a little. He tried to cover it up by adjusting his grip around Midoriya, but she saw his reaction. There was definitely something going on with Midoriya. "Let's just get him to the nurse's office," Mr. Aizawa said to them. "We need to make sure that he's okay. I'll call All Might and let him know what's going on." Even that seemed to get a weird reaction out of Bakugo. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed that he was a little nervous about something. He didn't even dare to look at 𝐸𝐻𝐸. They had become closer friends as of lately, and yet he didn't say anything to her. Whatever was going on, she knew that she'd know about it eventually. Soon enough, they all made their way into the nurse's office. Mr. Aizawa called All Might, and 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked at Bakugo. He looked a little nervous, but tried to keep a straight face. Bakugo headed into the nurse's office along with 𝐸𝐻𝐸. Recovery Girl came running in, noticing Bakugo carrying Midoriya. She gave him a disappointed look, like she was hoping that this wouldn't happen again. "Oh dear. What did Midoriya do this time during hero training?" Recovery Girl asked them. Bakugo set down Midoriya onto a nearby bed, and Recovery Girl went to check on him. Mr. Aizawa let 𝐸𝐻𝐸 take care of things since she seemed to know more about what was going on. "Well, actually, Recovery Girl, he didn't really do anything. He has a fever, and it looks like it somehow messed with his quirk," 𝐸𝐻𝐸 explained to her. Recovery Girl's eyes widened shock. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed that she gave Bakugo a look. It wasn't just any look, it was a "let's talk later" look. Something was definitely going on with Midoriya that 𝐸𝐻𝐸 wasn't aware of. She wanted to know so she could help take care of him, but she let Recovery Girl look after him for now. She placed her hand on top of his forehead as they waited for her to heal him. She observed him and checked how he was feeling for a little while. Something about it was bothering 𝐸𝐻𝐸 when she wouldn't say anything for a good long minute. For a moment, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 thought Recovery Girl flinched or reacted to something. "Well, how is he?" Kaminari asked her, a little impatient. "Kaminari, give her some space," Jiraiya said to him. "Well, from what I can tell, it's just a fever," Recovery Girl said to them. "He overheated, and it gave him a fever in the process. It's probably best for him to rest for a while. I'd heal him, but he's going to be exhausted if I do." 𝐸𝐻𝐸 was confused for a moment. There was something about this that didn't feel right. Whatever happened in Gym Gamma was definitely more than just a fever. "Wait. That's it. It's just a fever?" 𝐸𝐻𝐸 asked her, but this is clearly more than just a fever. Something was bothering him. "Can't you check him again? I just want to make sure that he's okay. His quirk, it was definitely acting up." 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed that she was holding back about something. Even Bakugo was still quiet as they tried to help him. She then wondered if they both knew something that she didn't, or maybe anyone else for that matter. Recovery Girl walked up to 𝐸𝐻𝐸 and gave her a look that told her to stay quiet. She flinched, shocked to see her looking so fierce. Something told her to stay quiet with a few others in the room. "𝐸𝐻𝐸, I know that you're worried about him, but you need to trust me that he will be fine," Recovery Girl said to him. "He's just got a fever. That's all it is, all right." She looked at her and wondered what was going on with Midoriya. Clearly there was something about him she shouldn't know. Whatever it was, Recovery Girl knew about it and wanted her to stay quiet. She already could tell that Bakugo knew about it as well. He hadn't said anything since this all happened. She looked at him, and he seemed to be distancing himself from her. Bakugo wouldn't dare say anything to her, not with some other classmates around. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked back at Recovery Girl and nodded her head towards her. "Okay. Sorry ma'am. I hope he's okay, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said to her as she bowed respectfully towards her. He'll be fine. I just need to talk to Mr. Aizawa and 𝗵𝘃𝐻 here for a moment, recovery girl said to her, would you all mind? They all were shocked that 𝗵𝘃𝐻 got to stay for a little while. No one dared to question it and walked out of the nurse's office. Something about it still bugged 𝐸𝐻𝐸 as she sat outside of the door. They all sat down or leaned on the wall to settle down and wait. Kaminari got caught trying to sneak a listen at what they were saying. Kaminari. J.I.R.U whisper yelled, now's not the time for that. Come on J.I.R.U. Don't you want to know as well what they are talking about? I'm sure you do this all time, Kaminari said to her. Yeah, but not when it's a teacher, J.I.R.U pointed out, you're gonna get caught. J.I.R.U's right. You should leave it alone before Mr. Aizawa catches you in the act, Todoroki said to him. Kaminari slumped his shoulders and almost walked away when he heard something about Midoriya. He leaned in closer, which got 𝐸𝐻𝐸 curious. Kaminari. Yaoyorozu whisper yelled, you're going to get us all in trouble. But, they're talking about Midoriya. Mr. Aizawa said something about All Might coming over, Kaminari said to them in a whispered tone. Yeah, we knew that already, Kirishima said to him, just leave it alone. You don't understand. He even mentioned something about his quirk being similar to his, Kaminari said to them. 𝐸𝐻𝐸's eyes widened in shock, but then she remembered that she knew that already. Still, something about it coming up again made her wonder what this was all about. All Might rushing over to come check on him made her think that they might also know something. Something about this didn't seem right to her. We all know that Kaminari. You need to back off and let them handle this, J.I.R.U said to him as she dragged him away from the door. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 then noticed that someone was coming over to see Midoriya. It was All Might, and he looked distraught and out of breath. All she could do was stare at him as he came over looking a little bit like he ran all the way over here. All Might. You're finally here, Yaoyorozu said to him. Why yeah, I am here, All Might said to them out of breath. So, how's young Midoriya doing? He's not doing so good. He has a fever, Todoroki said to him. But I'm sure he's fine. He'll pull through it and be feeling better in no time at all, Kirishima told him. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed how distraught All Might looked, and she walked over to him. She wanted to talk to him about what was going on, but something told her to pull back a bit. She did want to at least talk about this in private soon. All Might. It's Izuku's quirk in Gym Gamma, it kind of lost control just like the last time in that battle with Class 1B, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 explained to him, but this time it didn't let out a bunch of black tendrils, it kind of just let out a burst of wind. It was really strong and just as powerful as a windstorm. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 paid close attention to his reaction, and she definitely noticed him flinching. She could swear that he was even sweating a little. She didn't want to say anything more with lots of classmates around, but she really wanted to know if he knew something. That's strange, All Might said to her. Well, thank you for letting me know, young 𝐸𝐻𝐸. I'm sure it's nothing to be worried about, but I'll make sure that Mr. Aizawa got this quirk under control. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 could tell that he was holding back about something. She didn't know what or why, but she could tell that All Might wasn't giving anything away to them. She gripped her fists, feeling the need to know at this point. This was her boyfriend, and she deserved to know what was going on. All Might. Isn't there something that we can do? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 asked him. This isn't just a fever. I can tell. There's something going on with his quirk, and whatever it is I can tell it's bothering him. All Might didn't say anything for a while, and 𝐸𝐻𝐸 could tell that she was onto something. Then she remembered how Recovery Girl reacted, and she pulled back a bit. Something about this seemed like something she shouldn't be blurting out. She stiffened up, knowing that she was finding out something that no one else should know about. All Might walked up to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. She froze in place, realizing that he knew something about this. She didn't say a word as he looked down at her. Something in his eyes told her to stay quiet. Young 𝐸𝐻𝐸. I want you to know that young Midoriya is okay. This isn't something that you need to worry about, All Might whispered to her. Let us handle things. We'll make sure young Midoriya is doing well. Whatever is bothering him, I'm sure he'll pull through. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 wanted to say something, but held back. She couldn't get herself to talk to him. Something about him made her feel like she had crossed a line somewhere. It was like she was somewhere she shouldn't be at the moment. This was the retired symbol of peace after all. He knew things that others probably wouldn't. She was worried that she might get in trouble, but still worried about Midoriya. She let out a sigh, feeling a bit defeated. All right, All Might. If you say so, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said as he stepped away. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 watched him acknowledge everyone else and soon entered the nurse's office. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 really wanted to listen on the conversation now even more than Kaminari. Whatever they were talking about, she knew that something wasn't right about all of this. She decided to leave it alone. There was no way that she was going to get in trouble for something like this. Everyone settled down by the nurse's office. Jiraiya kept eyeing Kaminari as if he might listen in on their conversation. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 sat down across from the door, but needed some space to think about what was going on. She wanted Midoriya to be okay however and gave it a break. She did just hero train for a little bit. This was the best time to relax. 𝐸𝐻𝐸. Midoriya is going to be okay, Yaoyorozu said to 𝐸𝐻𝐸. Yeah. He's pretty strong when he needs to be, Kirishima said to her, he'll be just fine. But you gotta admit, that was a little weird back there, Kaminari said, earning him an earphone jack jab from Jiraiya. Don't listen to him. I'm sure Midoriya is just a little sick is all, Jiraiya said to her. He does seem a little under the weather. Maybe he needs to sleep here overnight, Todoroki said to them. I wouldn't be surprised if he did end up staying. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 wanted to help him back over to the dormitory, but she understood where Todoroki was coming from. He was exhausted and needed some rest. She could worry about him in the morning. Soon enough, the door slid open revealing Bakugo and Mr. Aizawa. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed All Might in the back for a moment. He was sitting with Recovery Girl and Midoriya sleeping by the bed. They were clearly in a deep conversation about something. It was quick, but she could tell that All Might looked worried about something. What's going on, Mr. Aizawa? Is Midoriya okay? Kirishima asked him. For a moment, Mr. Aizawa looked a little bit concerned. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 wondered what was going on, but let him talk. She even noticed that Bakugo was looking a little pale himself. That made her heart skip a beat. They were clearly keeping something from not just her but everyone else in class 1. If Midoriya is going to be fine. We have to let All Might handle things from here on out, Mr. Aizawa told them. Please don't bother them or interfere. Midoriya needs his rest. You can all see him in the morning. So, is he sleeping here tonight? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 asked him. Yes. His fever got a little higher, so we don't want to move him around too much, Mr. Aizawa said to them. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked over at Bakugo, and he still looked like he didn't want to say anything. He was starting to annoy her, but she didn't want to cause a scene. She really needed him to at least tell her what was going on. They were friends after all. After what happened between them during that whole body swap incident, she thought that they would talk to each other about these sort of things. Turns out he didn't tell her everything about Midoriya. Come on, let's give Midoriya and All Might some space, Mr. Aizawa said to them. You can get some rest and see him in the morning. No one said anything as they slumped their shoulders and went back to their dormitory. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked up at Bakugo's back and inconspicuously walked up to him. He didn't even seem to notice her coming up as she walked next to him. She noticed that he wasn't even looking where he was going as they walked back. He looked pretty out of it, which got her concerned about Midoriya. She wondered if All Might and Mr. Aizawa talked about his quirk. She subtly nudged him, making him look up to see her with a worried expression on her face. He didn't even say anything, he just stared at her. Something about it made her heart skip a beat and worried about what they even talked about. His eyes were softer than usual, maybe even vulnerable. Bakugo, what happened back there? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 asked him. Izuku's quirk was losing control just like that battle with Class 1B. This wasn't just a fever, something is going on with his quirk, isn't it? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed his facial expression look even more pale if that was even possible. She had never seen him look so distraught before. Something about it wasn't helping her feel any better. He didn't even say anything as he looked around at their classmates. They were a bit further away than him and her. Even Mr. Aizawa had run ahead of them to make sure the rest of their class was okay. "Uraraka, this isn't something that you should be getting yourself into," Bakugo said under his breath. "I can't tell you anything. You should just leave it alone and get some rest." Something about him telling her to back off really bothered her. Her fists clenched tightly and felt like she was about to snap. She tried to calm down, but the way things have going made her a little annoyed. First recovery, then All Might, and now you. What is going on, Bakugo? You can't just wave this off like it was nothing. "This is Izuku we're okay about," Uraraka said back through clenched teeth. She never looked away from him while they walked back to the dormitory. Something about him just seemed like he put up a wall or something. She could tell that he was holding back something that she couldn't know about. She knew that Midoriya's quirk was bothering him and wanted to help him in some way. "Uraraka. Like I told you, you need to stay away from this. This isn't something that you should get involved with," Bakugo growled out. "Recovery Girl and All Might are handling it. I'm sure everything will be fine by tomorrow." Uraraka was a little annoyed that wasn't giving her much, but she backed off a bit. She could tell that he was bothered by something as well. Whatever it wasn't anything good. Something about Midoriya's fever and his quirk was bothering Bakugo. She really hoped that things were okay and felt his fists loosen up. She thought that he would trust her, and that they were friends. Then again, Midoriya and him had known each other much longer than her. Even if things were different between them, they were still much closer than her. "Fine. I'm going to find out anyway soon whether it's from you or not," Uraraka said under her breath. I thought that we were finally friends." Uraraka noticed that Bakugo flinched a little from that comment. Something about it made regret saying it out loud, but soon ran off before he could say anything. Her classmates were calling out to her, but she kept running. She just wanted to run back to the dormitory so she could get some rest. The sooner she got there, the sooner she could go see Midoriya. She really wanted to let everyone know that Midoriya was okay, but all she could think about was getting to the bottom of this. Soon enough, she was outside and felt that cold breeze hitting against her face as she ran. All she could do was run back to the dormitory. Her legs hurt a little from hero training, but not as much as usual. She kept thinking about how much she cared about Midoriya and all they've been through together. The winter dance is what got them together, so she needed to be there for him. She remembered how good it felt to finally tell him that she loved him. That embrace at the dance made her feel so light and free, like she could fly around Gym Gamma that day. She really wanted to be there for him, in whatever way that she could. Soon enough, she opened the door to the dormitory, and everyone came running over to her. They all looked worried and concerned, and Uraraka soon cleared things up once she caught her breath. They all noticed how she had run all the way over here and worried about Midoriya. She told them that everything was okay. She didn't want them worrying and explained what was going on. They all were relieved that Midoriya was okay for the time being. They just hoped that Midoriya would be able to get a good night's sleep tonight. Uraraka then decided to head up to bed. She wasn't very hungry, so she turned in early. All she wanted to do was to go bed so she could go see Midoriya in the morning. She didn't even bother waiting for everyone else to show up at the dormitory. She had enough of a talk with Bakugo, and she would definitely talk to him again soon about all of this. But in the meantime, she needed some rest. Uraraka yawned as she entered room and put her things down. She slipped into her pajamas and felt herself relax into bed right away. Uraraka kept thinking about Midoriya and his quirk. It felt weird when she launched over to him in Gym Gamma. Something about it felt pretty strong, but she knew that something wasn't quite right. It felt like something was wrong with it and not like when Black WHP lost control. It felt different, like something went wrong with his quirk. Uraraka tossed and turned, wondering what had happened. Quirks didn't usually lose control like that. There was Tokoyami's quirk, but his was different from Midoriya's. It didn't even feel like it lost control, it felt like it needed to let go of so much power. She could feel it releasing when Midoriya's arm let out a big burst of wind. Something about it felt like when you let out a lot of air out of a balloon. It had built up a lot of power and was now letting it all out. For some reason, it had reacted that way. Whatever was bothering Midoriya, it had something to do with his quirk. "Izuku, please be okay, please get some sleep." In the nurse's office, Midoriya stirred in his sleep, feeling a little overheated. He felt like he needed to cool down right away as he dreamt about something he couldn't quite make out. He was seeing some colors that were trying to reach out to him. He could feel this energy trying to flow through him and could tell right away that it was one for all. Something about it, however, felt off or wrong about it. The colors even glitched as if something was wrong with it. He didn't understand why one for all was like this. He never even messed with his quirk or did anything that would even mess with it this badly. Midoriya even tried to remember if there was anything that would have caused this to happen, but nothing came up. Then he thought about what happened with Black WHP during the Class 1B battle. He wondered if this had anything to do with it. Midoriya hoped not, considering how strong it was, to keep it under control. He just wanted to fix it somehow, but he didn't know what to do. He tried to reach out to the colors, but he felt a sudden heat wave. He felt a little dizzy and lightheaded as he got closer to it, but kept pushing towards it. Then he felt a sudden shock hit the tips of fingers from the colors. His eyes widened, not expecting one for all to react to him like that. It felt weird too when he touched it. One for all felt like it was rejecting him. One for all. What's going on with you? Why are you doing this? Midoriya asked it. His quirk didn't do anything, but he did feel a wave of heat coming off of it. It felt like he had left his air conditioner off in the middle of the night again. He knew right away that this was more than just a fever. Something was wrong with his quirk. Midoriya tried to reach out again, but the colors were glitching. He felt really dizzy just by looking at it as he tried to fix it or do something. He didn't know what else to do other than reach for it. One for all, suddenly Midoriya felt himself getting pulled away from the colors and sat upright. He was sweating all over his bed, or he thought was his bed. He looked around frantically and noticed that he was in the nurse's office. Then he spotted All Might and Recovery Girl sitting beside him with worried looks on their faces. He tried to calm down, and All Might held his hand to comfort him. That somehow seemed to help him and soon relaxed. "It's okay, young Midoriya," All Might said to him, "I am here to help you." "All Might?" Midoriya said to him, What's going on?" "You've got a fever, young man," Recovery Girl said to him, "you even lost control of your quirk in Gym Gamma. Luckily, 𝐸 was there to help you out." Midoriya's eyes widened in shock, remembering what had happened earlier that day. He almost launched out of his bed, but All Might stopped him from leaving the nurse's office. Midoriya even got dizzy from him trying to leave. "You're not going anywhere, young Midoriya. Young 𝐸 is fine," All Might said to him. "She went back to the dormitory to get some rest. Her, young Bakugo and a few others came by to drop you off here. They wanted to make sure that you were okay." Midoriya felt himself relax, but still worried about his girlfriend. He remembered the look on her face when she jumped in to help him out. He felt like he was having déjà vu the moment and remembered her doing the exact same thing as the last time that happened. He felt his forehead and noticed that he was sweating a lot from his fever. "Here. Drink this," All Might said as he gave him some water. Midoriya reached out and took a sip. Once he tasted it, however, he took another big gulp, feeling how refreshing it was. He could feel the water running down his throat. It felt so good and cooling to the touch. He soon put down the glass of water and settled back down, but he felt a little lightheaded from trying to leave. For a moment, Midoriya could swear that he felt one for all in that moment. He was worried that it might go off again. "All Might, there's something I've got to tell you," Midoriya said to him. "This fever, something doesn't feel right." All Might flinched in his seat, and Midoriya felt like something still wasn't quite right. He could feel something inside of him that felt like it was building up again. It felt similar to what happened earlier, but was very subtle. "All Might, there's something wrong with One for All," Midoriya confessed to him. It felt like One for All activated on its own earlier. Even during hero training, I couldn't turn it off. 𝗏 just kept building up this wind pressure, and then it just let it all out in a huge wind storm. I couldn't control it. Midoriya could tell that All Might wasn't expecting that based on his reaction. He even looked like he was getting a little pale from him telling him all of this. Midoriya could still feel 𝗏as it was building up, but nothing was happening. He sat there, waiting for All Might to say something. Midoriya didn't know what to do about this and wished that Mr. Aizawa was here. Then he remembered that Mr. Aizawa couldn't even stop it from happening. Mr. Aizawa, he tried to help me, but it didn't work, Midoriya said to him. His quirk has never done that before. Something is wrong with 𝗏. All Might, you're the only one that can help me. Midoriya didn't want to worry All Might, but he needed his help for this one. He was the only one that knew anything about 𝗏. I don't know what I could to help out, All Might said back. Can't you reach out to one of the predecessors like last time? Midoriya remembered how weird it felt to even touch those orbs of colors. It was glitching and making him really hot and dizzy. They even shocked him when he tried to touch any of them. He looked down at his hand, remembering how off it felt. I tried, but 𝗏 is not working right. It feels like it's glitching, like there's something wrong with it. It's as if it got sick, just like this fever, Midoriya tried to explain. I didn't even mess with it. This shouldn't even be happening to it. Midoriya looked at All Might and instantly worried about him. He looked at his hands, and they were shaking. He even looked paler as he explained what was going on. He didn't want to worry him, but All Might of all people needed to know what was going on. This has never happened before, All Might explained to him, at least, not with me. I don't know if this ever happened to any of the predecessors. Whatever is happening, it might have to do with all of those quirks that are stored inside of you. I'm just going off of what happened last time, but if there's that much power inside of you, it might be possible that this caused your fever. Midoriya's stomach tightened, and he felt like he was going to be sick. He felt a little nervous as to what this all meant for him and 𝗏. Whatever was happening to it, they needed to figure out how to heal it. He still felt sweaty and wiped his forehead and realized that he was thirsty as well. He looked at the water that All Might gave him and grabbed it. He gulped it down, feeling a little overwhelmed by what he's dealing with here. No one else knew about this besides Bakugo and maybe a few of All Might's friends. He wondered if there was anything Bakugo could do, but he didn't even know what he'd be able to help him out with. He drank all of the water, and All Might tried to calm him down. Young Midoriya, you've get a hold of yourself, All Might told him. Now's the time to stay calm and think about what we can do to help heal you and 𝗏. He's right, Recovery Girl said to him. You need to find a way to heal this. Midoriya looked confused at her and wondered why she wasn't even trying to help him. Why can't you just heal it? Midoriya asked her. Your quirk should help, right? No. Unfortunately, I can't help you, Recovery Girl said back. 𝗏 is a special quirk. I may be able to heal others, but not the quirk specifically. Besides, this quirk is clearly exhausting you. It probably wouldn't be best to try to heal you. Midoriya tried to relax a little, but he wondered what he could do about this. Midoriya could tell that All Might was trying to figure out what to do as well. Something inside of him felt a little bit of that air flow that he felt before. Something felt like it was building up, but it wasn't as strong as before. Midoriya could still tell that they needed to figure out and quick. Okay, All Might, I think that there was a knock on the door, causing everyone to look up. Midoriya noticed Iida and Uraraka came peeking into the nurse's office and wondered they could come inside. Recovery Girl allowed it, and Uraraka spotted Midoriya looking pale and sweaty. Midoriya noticed her eyes getting glossy, and she came in to hug him. Oh Achiko. I am all sweaty, Midoriya pointed out. I don't care about that. Are you okay? Uraraka asked him. I was worried about you all night last night. Midoriya felt a blush forming around his face and noticed that some other classmates were trying to make their way into the nurse's office. Recovery Girl was trying to keep them in line and give Midoriya some space. Midoriya looked up at Uraraka and noticed how teary her eyes looked. He was tempted to wipe them away, but then noticed how many people were there. I'm fine, Midoriya said back. I needed to rest is all. I still have a fever though. I might not be able to go to classes today after all. Uraraka and Ida looked a little upset, and Midoriya held onto Uraraka's hand to support her. He clenched it, hoping that she would cheer up. Don't worry about me, Ochako. I've got All Might and Recovery Girl here with me, Midoriya said back, they'll help me out. Maybe Ida can grab some my schoolwork for me so I don't fall behind. You've got it, Midoriya, Ida said back with a smile, as Class Republic, I'll make sure that you don't fall behind. Midoriya smiled back, feeling supported and appreciated. Then Uraraka had a certain look in her eyes that made him flinch a little. She looked suspicious of something. He didn't know what, but he had a feeling that it had something to do with One for All. He really wanted to tell her the truth, but he couldn't risk it with so many people in the nurse's office. A couple of his classmates soon came into the room, and Midoriya noticed that 𝗵𝘃𝐻 wasn't here. Where's 𝐀𝐻? Midoriya asked her, isn't here with you. Uraraka looked at him, and she looked a little suspicious again. Midoriya felt like his stomach was even tighter and wondered if they had a conversation about a certain quirk. Well, me and 𝗵𝘃𝐻 had a bit of an argument earlier in Class 1A's dormitory. Uraraka let out a sigh as she headed down to the common room. She gripped onto her backpack as she waited for the elevator to open. All she could think about was what 𝗵𝘃𝐻 told her. Something about it felt like he knew more than she thought. He clearly wanted her to keep quiet, but that didn't mean that she was going to back down. Yeah, he told her to stay away from this, but she was still determined to help Midoriya. In order to help, she had to at least get to the bottom of what was going on with Midoriya. She soon exited the elevator and noticed that everyone was already up. They were finishing up breakfast, and Uraraka spotted 𝗵𝘃𝐻 eating a granola bar and drinking some orange juice. She kept glancing at him as she grabbed some cereal and orange juice. At one point, 𝗵𝘃𝐻 locked eyes with her as he got ready to leave. Uraraka didn't look away from him. She sat down at a table nearby and ate her cereal. Ida, Todoroki, and Yaoyorozu were sitting with you, and they looked confused as to why Uraraka was eyeing 𝗵𝘃𝐻 like that. She ate her cereal quite harshly, like she was mad about something. Uraraka, are you mad at 𝗵𝘃𝐻 or something? Yaoyorozu asked her. Uraraka looked up at them and didn't even notice that she was doing it right in front of her friends. Huh? Uraraka said back with a mouthful of cereal. Uraraka finished her cereal and thought about it for a moment. Uraraka didn't know if she should mention any of this to her friends. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 clearly didn't want anyone knowing about Midoriya and whatever was going on. Then again, she didn't even know what it was that he was hiding. Still, she knew to keep things vague just in case. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 is hiding something, Uraraka said to them, something is wrong with Izuku's quirk, and he won't let me know what's going on. Wait, doesn't Midoriya just have a fever? Ida asked her. Uraraka hesitated to say anything else and felt like she might need to hold back a bit. She didn't understand why, but something about it made her feel like this wasn't she be telling everyone. Even Recovery Girl told her to be careful and to stay quiet about this. Whatever was going on, clearly this was something important. It might be. I can tell that 𝗵𝘃𝐻 might know something about what's going on, Uraraka said to them, whatever he's hiding, it's definitely something about Izuku's fever. Why would he keep his fever a secret? Todoroki asked her, that doesn't make any sense. Uraraka drank some of her orange juice, feeling a little bit better. She looked over at 𝗵𝘃𝐻 and noticed that he was about to leave. Uraraka really didn't know what else to do. She couldn't just sit back and do nothing about this. Uraraka's boyfriend was sick, and 𝗵𝘃𝐻 was telling her to back off. If anything, she should be there by his side. She got up, and everyone noticed her eyes. They looked determined to find out what's going on. Uraraka, maybe you shouldn't, Yaoyorozu said to her, you don't want to cause a scene. Uraraka walked up to him, feeling even more determined to face him. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 didn't see her coming until she was only mere inches away from him. She grabbed his collar, surprising him. Everyone stood there with shocked faces as Uraraka looked fierce at 𝗵𝘃𝐻. Even he looked a little thrown off by her being so close to him. Uraraka! What the hell are you? Don't! You don't get to say anything this time around, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said back, you said enough yesterday. You can't tell me to stay away from Izuku. He needs me, and you tell me to back off. You can't tell me what to do, especially when it comes to Izuku. Whatever he's going through, he should be the one to tell me what's going on, not you. Bakugo didn't dare speak as she kept staring at him with daggered eyes. If Midoriya was here with her, he'd be speechless just like everyone else in the common room. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 didn't step back, and Bakugo stared back at her once he noticed everyone staring at them. 𝐸𝐻𝐸, now's not the time for this, Bakugo said under his breath, not with everyone here. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 gripped onto his collar even more as she kept going. Izuku and me have been dating for a while now. I know that we've been friends lately, but I still deserve to know what's going on. He's my boyfriend after all, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said back, you two may be childhood friends, but that doesn't mean you can keep me away from him. Everyone was shocked to hear her talk like this to Bakugo of all people. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 kept staring at him and didn't back down. Bakugo didn't back down either, but he looked like he was concerned about something. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed the way he looked at her and wondered if she had gone too far. Then again, she still felt good standing her ground. Bakugo soon held her hand and moved her away from him. 𝐸𝐻𝐸. You still clearly don't understand what's going on, Bakugo said under his breath. You may be Deku's girlfriend, but you still don't know or understand what it is that you can't know about. Whatever you think it is, you shouldn't be causing a scene trying to figure things out. That'll just make things worse for you and him. 𝐸𝐻𝐸's eyes widened in shock and looked down at Bakugo's hand holding hers. She felt herself pull away from him, but soon left her along with Kirishima. Class 1A all stood there, wondering what just happened between them. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 stayed quiet as Bakugo and Kirishima left together. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 clenched her fists, feeling a little frustrated at Bakugo. Not because that she was annoyed, but because she was frustrated that he was right. She didn't know what was going on with Midoriya. If this really was a secret, there was clearly a reason for it. In a way, she was glad that Bakugo said something to her in that moment. She really had to go about this differently. Whatever was going on, she wanted to make sure to things quiet about it. Whatever it was. In the nurse's office, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 stood there, feeling a little embarrassed. She looked at Midoriya and noticed that he looked a little surprised by what she told him. She was a little vague about what she told Bakugo, but Midoriya clearly looked a little shocked that 𝐸𝐻𝐸 would ever do this. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 could tell that Midoriya looked a little nervous about something. Even All Might looked a little concerned for a moment, but he looked away when 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked at him. She wondered even more about what they were talking about before they showed up. Well, I hope Kaken isn't mad about this, Midoriya said to her, we've already dealt with that before. We don't need that again. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 wondered what he meant by that, but then she realized that he must know something that none of them did. He clearly knew about Midoriya's quirk. The more they talked about it, the more she figured that it was about his quirk. She never talked about it with him and just thought that it was like any other super strength quirk. She knew that it was a little similar to All Might's but didn't think much of it until now. Everyone there didn't seem to be bothered by this at all and were all worried about Midoriya's condition. Even Iida looked a little worried about him as they stood there with All Might and Recovery Girl. Is he going to be okay, Recovery Girl? Iida asked her. Recovery Girl and All Might gave each other a subtle look that caught 𝐸𝐻𝐸's attention. She wanted to say something, but decided to wait on that one. The more she stood beside All Might, the more she wanted to talk to him about Midoriya. She had to know what it was that was bothering Midoriya so much. Whatever it was, it had something to do with his quirk. Well, Midoriya clearly has a fever. He needs his rest, and I don't think he should go to school in his condition, Recovery Girl explained to all of them. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 was upset and slumped her shoulders. But then she stood tall, noticing All Might and Recovery Girl sharing a look with Midoriya. They looked worried about something, and she knew that she couldn't just sit there and do nothing. She clenched her fists, hoping that she could get to the bottom of this soon. If that's what needs to be done, I'll make sure that Midoriya doesn't fall behind, Iida said to them, just like you said, I'll grab your homework whenever I get the chance to do so. Class Republic, I can't let you fall behind so easily. Thanks Ida. I appreciate it, Midoriya said to him. I just hope you feel better soon, Ida said to him, this seems like a bothersome flu. Next time, don't leave your air conditioner in the middle of the night. Yeah. Sure Ida, Midoriya said as he scratched the back of his head. Uraraka noticed how nervous Midoriya looked and knew that there was more to this than a simple flu. She looked closer and noticed how he was still sweaty. Even his face looked a little paler than usual. She remembered how it felt when he lost control of his quirk the other day. It felt so powerful as the wind blew all around her as she jumped in to help. She could swear she felt more than just wind pressure coming off of him. It felt like surging energy coming off of him. She definitely felt a little like he needed her help at the moment. She was just glad that she jumped in before anyone got hurt. Once she noticed how nervous he looked, Uraraka sat down on the bed. Midoriya looked at her, but then avoided her gaze. Something about it made her feel a little hurt that he would keep secret from her. They were together after all, and she told him almost everything that was going on with her and her family. She at least hoped that it wasn't anything big or important. But based on his reaction and response to what's going on made her think otherwise. Uraraka held his hand, and he looked at her with such genuine eyes. Izuku. Is there anything that you want to tell me? About what's going on? Uraraka asked him with confidence, you can tell me. She noticed him flinch a little at what she said to him. He tried to hide it, but she caught on pretty quickly that there was something else going on. She held onto his hand as he sat there looking at All Might and Recovery Girl. She didn't look away from him as he tried to avoid looking at her. Right away, she could tell that he was keeping something from her. She felt hurt but didn't understand why he would keep this secret from her. If there was something wrong, she thought maybe he might want her by his side. He even looked at Ida, who was just as worried as Uraraka. Akachiko ii Midoriya trailed off, making Uraraka feel much worse. Uraraka could tell that something else was going on, but still felt hurt that he didn't say anything. She wanted to understand that he couldn't just blurt it out. Something about it, however, did feel like she was being left out. She tightened her hand around his, catching his attention. Izuku. Please tell me what's going on, Uraraka said to him, you are sick and can't go to school because of it. Your quirk acted up right in front of me. Don't play it off as some kind of regular flu, because it's not. Clearly your quirk is bothering you somehow. She felt Midoriya stiffen up as she held his hand and supported him, so much concern in her eyes. She wasn't even paying attention to All Might or Recovery Girl in that moment, who were now worried that she might find out about the truth. Please Izuku. Please tell me what's going on, Uraraka said to him, you need my help. You can't just leave me in the dark about whatever's going on. I just want to help you feel better. She watched Midoriya think about it for a moment. He didn't say anything for a long time. If anything, he looked speechless, like he didn't expect her to know so much so fast. Midoriya and Uraraka didn't pull away from either one of each other for a while. Uraraka noticed him hesitate, and she got worried that he wouldn't say anything. Something about his eyes told her that he wanted to tell her, but he couldn't. Uraraka wondered if it had anything to do with Ida being here. She needed to be alone with him, but it still upset her. She pulled away from his hand, and he tried to grab hers before she could leave. Achiko. Wait, I want to tell you, but Midoriya trailed off, but looked at All Might and Recovery Girl. Uraraka noticed his gaze drifting away from her, and she felt less hurt. She still couldn't let this go anytime soon. She could tell that he wasn't going to say anything at the moment. She just needed to get to school and figure out what to do from there. Izuku, I thought we shared everything. I guess I was wrong though, Uraraka said to him with a glisten in her eyes. She noticed that Midoriya looked hurt in the corner of her eye, but she pulled away from him. She felt her hand slip away from his and soon left the nurse's office. Soon enough, Ida left with her and ran to catch up to her. She even forgot about who was there with them, and they followed her out of there. Uraraka. What's going on with you lately? Ida asked her, you've been acting weird ever since Midoriya got sick. Yeah. It's just a flu, Kaminari pointed out, he'll feel better soon enough. Don't worry about him so much, Uraraka. I'm sure everything's fine with him, Yaoyorozu said to her. Uraraka felt a little annoyed as they kept talking to her. She knew that it was more than that, and they couldn't see it. Something about Midoriya's quirk has been acting up a lot more lately. No one has questioned it, even back during the Class 1B battles. Even she didn't realize how different and unique his quirk was. Even during the winter dance when they were dancing, she never once questioned how amazing his quirk felt around her. She could even feel that strong yet soft energy flowing through him as they danced together. Only this time during hero training, it felt powerful and surging. It felt more like it was agitated, like something about it was bothering his quirk. Even if he couldn't tell her, she still wasn't giving up on finding out. She had to know what was going on, one way or another. She clenched her fists, knowing full well that she was getting close to finding out the truth. Let's just get to school already. After classes, Uraraka sat at her lunch table, eating her lunch. More like picking it, however, as she played around with her salad. She couldn't eat, not when she was so close to finding out what was going on with Midoriya. She was still upset about him not telling her anything, not even a hint. He could have at least told her that his quirk felt better or something like that. All she wanted to do was be by his side and help him get through this. Whatever was happening with his quirk, she wanted to figure out a way to help him. Uraraka, are you okay? Yaoyorozu asked her with worried eyes. Uraraka looked up to see everyone at the table worried about her. They all sat there in the middle of lunch, waiting to see if Uraraka was okay or not. Uraraka couldn't even touch her food, and it was obvious why. Why, yeah. I'm fine, Uraraka said to them, I'm just not very hungry is all. Look, I know that you're worried about Midoriya, but you should eat something, Ida said to her, it's not going to help him if you don't eat. Besides, I'm sure he's already feeling much better, Todoroki said to her. Uraraka looked at all of her friends and realized that they all cared about her and Midoriya. She couldn't help but smile at how much they cared about them. She already felt a lot better, but still felt concerned about Midoriya and his quirk. All she could think about was his quirk and what was going on with it. Something was wrong with it, and Midoriya couldn't tell her anything about it. She could tell that he wanted to, which made her feel a little better. Uraraka picked up some of her salad with chopsticks and ate it. She felt better, but she still needed to get to the bottom of this. Whatever was going on, she knew that Midoriya wanted her to know something. Soon enough, she had eaten the rest of her meal without even realizing it. She might have eaten too fast, but she didn't care. I need some space, I'll meet you guys in the classroom, okay? Uraraka said to them as she got up her tray of food. Before anyone could say anything, she left the cafeteria and threw her tray away. Once she walked away from the table, she soon locked eyes with Bakugo at a nearby table. He didn't look away, and something about him made her feel like she was onto something. Something about his eyes made her feel like she was getting close to finding out what was going on with Midoriya. She looked away and headed out of the cafeteria, feeling determined. Uraraka didn't know where she was going, but she soon found herself heading towards the staff room. She didn't know why, but something was pulling her towards it. All she wanted to do was talk to All Might. Maybe if she just spoke to him, he might know something about this. Something about him clearly knew some things that no one else did. Just by the way he looked at Midoriya earlier, she could tell that he was in on this whole thing. Soon enough, she was right in front of the staff room door. She stood there, ready to knock. Before she could, however, Present Mike opened it to find Uraraka standing there. Whoa, girl! I didn't see you there. Present Mike cried out a little too loudly. Sorry, Present Mike, Uraraka said back, I was just wondering if All Might was in there. I need to talk to him about schoolwork. Uraraka didn't mean to lie, but she felt like she needed to see him in some way. She could tell that he wasn't going to just talk to anyone about this whole thing. Sorry, Uraraka girl, but he's not here, Present Mike said back, he left a while ago to go get lunch for Midoriya. He's still not feeling so hot, yo. Uraraka slumped her shoulders, feeling a little frustrated that she couldn't even get a moment to talk to him. She let out a sigh and headed back to her classroom. Okay. Sorry, President Mike, for bothering you, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said to him. I just really needed to ask him about schoolwork. I just hope Izuku is alright. Before 𝐸𝐻𝐸 could leave, President Mike stopped her from leaving. She could that he felt bad and wanted to help. What is it that you need help with? Maybe I can do something, President Mike asked her. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 smiled at him and wondered if she should take advantage of this. She would never get a chance like this ever again. She thought about it for a moment and knew that he'd be the best person to talk to for this sort of thing. Well, there's this quiz that Mr. Aizawa planning soon. It's about quirks, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said to him. By any chance could you help me understand a few things? Maybe go over something with me. President Mike looked a little confused, but 𝐸𝐻𝐸 hoped that he would help her anyway. Sure girl. I'd be happy to help, President Mike said back. So, Mr. Aizawa is planning a quiz about quirks. What it is that you're confused about? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 had to think about for a moment and wondered if this might give things away a bit. She thought about how to go about this, but decided to just go for it. I was wondering if there are quirks that build up energy over time. I've barely seen quirks that do that. I guess Izuku's is kind of like that, but he can much faster and on time whenever he needs to, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 explained to him. I mean, there's gotta be a limit though, right? With quirks like that, there's gotta some way to release it all. Have you ever dealt with a quirk like that before? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 could tell that he was a little stumped from her question, but thought about it anyway. She could tell that he wasn't even that suspicious of her, but wondered if he might tell Mr. Aizawa about this interaction. She had to be careful still since they were close friends after all. I can't say that I have. At least, nothing like Midoriya's quirk. There is Eri, however. Her quirk is a little similar because it stores energy over time, just you described, President Mike said to her. Her quirk is pretty unique. I've never seen anything like hers before. I'd say hers takes longer to store energy than some quirk like Midoriya's. That caught 𝐸𝐻𝐸's attention and wondered if Mr. Aizawa might get Eri involved. He doesn't seem like he would get involved since this seems to be just a fever. Then again, if he isn't feeling any better soon, Recovery Girl could easily help him out. She let out a sigh as if she were frustrated with the upcoming make-believe quiz. Well, quirks are a part of you. Especially mutated quirks, so does that mean that they can get sick as well? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 asked him. I mean, when I'm sick, I accidentally make things float just from sneezing and touching all sorts of things. Quirks must get sick somehow in some way if not treated properly, right? President Mike gave a confused look, and she knew that he might be suspicious of her now at this point. She pulled back a bit, but she could tell that he was too interested in this quiz. I'd say it depends on the quirk. A mutated quirk would definitely affect it in some way, but again it depends on the illness and quirk. On the other hand, a quirk like Eri's and Midoriya's would definitely be affected if it stores energy all the time. President Mike explained to her. It's a unique quirk and should be looked after when sick. Those kinds of quirks when sick is something you don't want to be around if something went wrong, that's for sure. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 flinched, remembering how it felt when Midoriya lost control of his quirk. It felt pretty strong and full of surging energy as she jumped over to him. She could swear she felt it in that moment and tried to shake it off. I'm guessing that you're worried about Midoriya. President Mike asked her. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 snapped out of it and looked around to see if Mr. Aizawa was nearby. He looked a little bit concerned about him, and she felt her shoulders slump. Yeah. I guess I'm just worried about him, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said back. I just thought maybe I could do something about it. Maybe try to help him whenever he needs my help. I'm his girlfriend, I should be able to help him whenever I can. President Mike gave her genuine smile, and she looked away feeling a little guilty for lying to him. Don't worry so much, 𝐸𝐻𝐸, President Mike said back. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's pretty tough if you hadn't noticed. If he needs you, he'll reach out to you. He doesn't seem like someone to keep secrets from someone that he cares about. That one hurt a little, but she understood where he was coming from. She smiled at him, feeling a sense of relief coming off of her. Thank you, 𝗵𝗃. I hope that I didn't bother you too much, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said back. Don't worry about it. I needed to stretch my legs anyway. There's a lot of paperwork to go over, so I needed an excuse to step away for a moment, 𝗵𝗃 said back with a wink. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 couldn't help but laugh at him, feeling herself start to relax a little. She felt better once 𝗵𝗃 seemed okay with her asking him questions. He soon headed over to the cafeteria, and she decided to leave him to it. Then he stopped her before she had the chance to do anything. There's no quiz on quirks with Mr. Aizawa, is there? 𝗵𝗃 asked him. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 stiffened up, but then noticed that he seemed fine with it. No. Sorry about that. I was just worried about 𝗵𝗃 stopped her for a moment, and she looked at him. He seemed surprisingly okay with it and gave her a wink. Don't worry about it, girl. We'll just keep this between us. In the hallways, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 soon let 𝗵𝗃 leave the hallways and head for the cafeteria. She felt bad for lying to him, but he seemed fine with it once he found out the truth. Something about talking to him made her feel more determined to find out what was going on. He wasn't strict like Mr. Aizawa, but also wasn't secretive like All Might. He kind of a bit loud but also a good listener when you need him to be. She decided to head over to the nurse's office to check on Midoriya before classes start up again. She knew where to go, but felt a little nervous to go see him again. Then she remembered what 𝗵𝗃 told her and felt more determined to help him. She walked over to the nurse's office and felt herself pick up the pace. As she got closer to the nurse's office, she remembered 𝗵𝗃 telling her that All Might was getting Midoriya something to eat. All Might was there with Midoriya still. She wondered if she might be able to talk to him alone. Even if it was with Midoriya, she was glad that they'd be alone. She wondered if she should turn around however and just go to class. Something about it made her wonder if there was a reason why they kept this a secret. If Midoriya really wanted to tell her and he couldn't, then there had to be a reason as why she couldn't know about it. She felt herself hesitate, which worried her. If she couldn't handle this, what made her think she could handle whatever was actually going on? She was Midoriya's girlfriend though. She had to be there for him, even if she was nervous about it. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 then remembered how scared Midoriya was when his quirk lost control during the Class 1B battle. He looked terrified that he might accidentally hurt someone. None of it was his fault, and she knew that she had to do something in order to stop it. Her feet shook as she took a step closer and kept going. Whatever was going on with Midoriya, she knew that she had to be there for him. She walked towards the nurse's office, feeling a little overwhelmed for some reason. She tried to calm down, but she felt her stomach tighten up as she got closer. Then she spotted it in the distance. Then someone came walking towards it from a different direction, and she hid behind a wall. It was All Might. He was holding a tray of food for Midoriya. Soon enough, All Might opened the door and headed inside. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 didn't know why she hid behind the wall, but she also didn't want to get caught for some reason. It's not like she was breaking a rule in the school or anything. She just wanted to see her boyfriend, and yet she was nervous about talking to All Might. She's never really talked to him about something like this before. At least, not like this. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 stepped away from the wall and headed over to the nurse's office. She slowly made her towards the door and almost knocked on it. She hesitated, still feeling a little nervous to even enter. Then she heard All Might talking to Midoriya, causing her to stop before knocking on it. She could tell that All Might was serious about something. She didn't want to eavesdrop, but then she could hear Midoriya talking to him. He sounded upset about something, and she leaned in to hear him talking about 𝐸𝐻𝐸. She stiffened up, but also wondered if this was about this weird secret that they were keeping from her. All Might, she's getting closer to finding out the truth, Midoriya said to him behind the door. I know that no one should know about my quirk, but she of all people should know about it. I understand where you're coming from, young Midoriya, All Might said back, but you shouldn't make decisions based on relationships all the time. I know that you care about her, but if this got out, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 could tell that whatever this secret was, All Might was the one getting in the way of Midoriya telling her. She didn't want to upset or frustrated with All Might, but this was her boyfriend after all. She deserved to know if she wanted to be with him. If anything, Midoriya deserved to be given a chance to explain things to her. All Might. She would never let that happen, Midoriya said back. Ochiko's not someone that would ever let this get out. She'd understand I can't keep lying to her about this anymore. It hurts to keep it from her, and I can tell that she's going to find out one way or another. Uraraka felt guilty for listening in on them, but she had to find out what was going on. If anything, she felt her heart flutter when Midoriya mentioned her. She could tell that he really cared about her and wanted her to be by his side. Whatever was going on, he wanted to tell her. All Might let out a sigh, which made Uraraka tense up. Young Midoriya. Are you sure that she can be trusted with this? I know that she's a great hero in training and friend to you, but she can be a bit confrontational when she wants to be. I just don't want this relationship between you two to get in the way of your training. Don't worry about All Might. Ochiko is someone that I trust fully. After everything that we've been through, she is someone that I would tell. After all, you have a few people and friends that know about One for All, Midoriya explained to him. Please let me explain things to her, All Might. She might even be able to help out with this. One for All. Uraraka said under her breath. Uraraka questioned what they were talking about, but kept listening to them. Whatever One for All was, it was clearly a part of this secret. Maybe even Midoriya's quirk. Young Midoriya, I know you mean well, but she almost blurted out in front of your classmates. We can't have her asking questions to anyone. People might start asking questions around the school, All Might pointed out. If anything, you should keep your distance for a while. At least, until we get this under control. Uraraka felt her heart skip a beat hearing All Might talk about her in that way. She never thought All Might would ever get in the way of their relationship, much less try to separate them. She felt sick to her stomach from eating too fast and clenched onto her jacket. She felt a little nervous that Midoriya might break up with her just because of this stupid secret. She could feel tears almost forming around her eyes just thinking about it. But All Might, I can't keep lying to her about this. She deserves to know, Midoriya said back. I can't seem to figure out what's going on with my quirk. Having someone here might help us figure out what's going on. Ochiko, she's witnessed firsthand what One for All is capable of. If anything, she must know what's going on more than she's letting on. We might as well tell her soon. At least let me talk to her, maybe see if she knows anything. Uraraka felt like she should step away before she causes trouble between them. She leaned into the door, but felt herself stumble to get up from listening in on the conversation. All of a sudden, she felt her arms slip out from under the door and fell to the ground. The door slid open, revealing Uraraka to All Might and Midoriya. Uraraka's eyes widened in shock, seeing them staring at her. They looked just as shocked as her as she laid down on the ground. She felt her face blush from embarrassment as she tried to quickly stand upright. She dusted herself off and felt herself heating up even more. Tears even fell down from her face from when she heard All Might talking to Midoriya. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Uraraka stumbled on her words as she tried to avoid eye contact with them. I wanted to help Izuku. Uraraka felt that nervous feeling coming up again as she tried to face Midoriya and All Might. Something about it made her back out of this situation, even though Midoriya was clearly still pale and sweaty. She felt herself back with tears running down her face. Her face felt a little hot as her stomach tightened up from feeling sick to her stomach. She felt like she was going to throw up and could swear that she felt something coming off of Midoriya even from a distance. It felt like that surge of energy, but more subtle. It felt like it was building up just like before in Gym Gamma. I am sorry, I shouldn't be here. Uraraka remembered what she just heard and ran away from the nurse's office. Ochiko! Wait! Midoriya cried out as he tried to get out of his bed. Uraraka didn't even look back as she ran away from Midoriya and All Might. She felt tears fall down her face as she kept running away from them. Even though she wanted to know what was going on, she still felt nervous. Something about this secret freaked her out a little, and she didn't know why. She had faced Midoriya losing control of his quirk twice, and she could deal with that. Something about this though seemed to bother her, and she didn't know why. This One for All, whatever it was, it scared her. She didn't understand why, but she felt her legs running towards the front door. Then she ran into her classmates heading out of the cafeteria. She stopped in her tracks, and they all looked at her. Her eyes were wide in shock and tears were running down her face, making them worry about her even more. "𝐸𝐻𝐸. What's going on? Are you okay?" Ida asked her with worried eyes. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 took a step back, still feeling a little nervous. Then she spotted 𝗵𝘃𝗀, and 𝐸𝐻𝐸 felt sick to her stomach. Just when her and 𝗵𝘃𝗀 were starting to become good friends, he was keeping secrets from her. Not only him, but Midoriya as well. She couldn't be near them at the moment and felt herself backing away from them. They called to her when she soon headed towards the stairs. She kept running and soon found herself on the stairs to the rooftop. She just had to get some fresh air and soon opened the door. It creaked open as she pushed on the heavy door. She stepped outside, feeling that spring breeze blow all around her. Her hair blew in the wind as she wiped her tears away. She walked over to the railing and looked out at the view. Cherry blossom trees stood tall in the distance as she took in that appealing, cool breeze. She wasn't expecting it to look so amazing up here as she gripped onto the railing. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 remembered the last time she was up here. It was when she really thought Midoriya was going to ask her out to the winter dance. She was upset because he didn't understand that she wanted him to ask her out. That's all she ever wanted was to go out with him to the winter dance, and now they were together. She gripped tighter onto the railing, wondering if she should have even been more than friends with Midoriya. But then the more she thought about it, the more she realized that she really did love him. Just being separated from him made her feel so heartbroken. She couldn't picture them as anything other than a couple. Soon enough, she felt tears fall down her face and tried to wipe them away. They kept coming, and she couldn't stop crying. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 wanted to be there for him, but something inside of her was telling her to keep her distance with him. She wondered if it had anything to do with what happened between them in Gym Gamma. Whatever was going on with Midoriya, she now knew about something that she shouldn't have found out. One for all. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 knew that this one for all was clearly important, but wondered what it was. She wondered if it was his quirk, but then realized that All Might was involved. She didn't understand why he would be telling him what to do with his quirk. He wasn't related to him or anything like that, so she couldn't see why All Might would have any say in this. If anything, Midoriya should be allowed to tell whoever he could about this quirk just so he had help. If this quirk was that important, then he should have extra help to heal him. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked down at her hand and wondered if she should go back to Midoriya. But she couldn't get herself to leave the rooftop. All she wanted to do is stand there and feel that amazing spring breeze flow through her hair. Something about it just felt so good and refreshing as she felt her tears dry on her face. 𝐸𝐻𝐸, why are you doing this? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 asked more to herself, I just want to help you. Then she heard that heavy creaking door open to reveal 𝗵𝘃𝗀. She almost activated her quirk on herself from how sudden it was that he would come up here to see her. The door creaked loudly, which just made 𝗵𝘃𝗀 annoyed as it slammed shut. This DMN thing is annoying. I can't even come up here without making a loud noise, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said under his breath. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked over at him, and then avoided him by looking back out at the appealing view. She just wanted to be alone, and now 𝗵𝘃𝗀 of all people came up to talk to her. She tried to wipe her dried tears away, but they didn't wipe away so easily. Her grip tightened as he made his way over to her. For a while, he didn't say anything. They just stood there looking out at the appealing view of cherry blossom trees. The petals flew in the wind, creating a subtle smell of something sweet and a perfume-like scent. It almost helped 𝐸𝐻𝐸 calm down. Then 𝗵𝘃𝗀 spoke up and things between them felt awkward. I have a feeling that you know what's going on, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said to her, you wouldn't be crying over nothing. Then again, you do tend to get emotional about some pretty ridiculous things. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 felt her face warm up a bit and avoided eye contact with him. She didn't want to deal with him right now, especially when he was involved in this somehow. Something about talking to him in that moment felt a little weird, even if they were friends now. She wanted to be friends with him, but things between them seem more awkward ever since Midoriya got sick. Look, whatever it is that you know about or found out, you should know that this isn't something Deku would ever want to keep from you, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said to her. He may be annoying and stubborn at times, but he would never keep a secret like this from you. Even if he could, he would tell you right away. Hell, you would probably be the first one he'd go to if he could. Uraraka looked over at 𝗵𝘃𝗀, feeling a little curious as to why he was even talking to her about this. She let go of the railing and turned to face him. 𝗵𝘃𝗀, why are you here? You and I may be friends, but you still didn't have to come up here, Uraraka said back. You don't even know what I found out. You could have slipped and said some things about One for All or whatever it is that they're keeping from me. She noticed 𝗵𝘃𝗀 flinch from her mentioning One for All. That alone confirmed her suspicions about 𝗵𝘃𝗀 knowing about it. He knew about whatever One for All was. She wanted to ask him about it, but she was too tired from crying and running to even ask. That's true, but I had to make sure that you knew about it first, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said back. It's not something to talk about in front of our class or anyone for that matter. Speaking of which, you really should keep it on the down low. This isn't something that you should be talking about with Four Eyes or any of the others. Uraraka's eyes widened in shock, surprised that it was this serious. She could tell that this was definitely his quirk or something along those lines. Something about it still gave her chills, and she didn't understand why. She's been around him using his quirk all the time, and yet something about it felt different. She didn't understand why she was feeling this way about it, but she didn't want this to change anything. She still loved Midoriya and wanted to help him in any way that she could. I ran away, 𝗵𝘃𝗀, Uraraka confessed to him. I couldn't even handle this secret that they were keeping from me. When I heard them mention One for All, something about Izuku just felt different. I don't understand why I felt this way, but the more I remembered what happened in Gym Gamma, the more it felt intense. Something about it made me sick to my stomach, and I ran away. I couldn't even stay long enough for them to explain things to me. If I can't even handle that feeling coming off of Izuku, then how can I even stand there by his side? I want to help him, but I keep wondering if we should have stayed as friends a long time ago. Uraraka felt tears coming up again and quickly tried to hide them. She wiped them away, but 𝗵𝘃𝗀 noticed her right away. She even thought she saw 𝗵𝘃𝗀 looking concerned, which threw her off for a moment. For a while, they just stood there looking out at the view. Uraraka felt like leaving 𝗵𝘃𝗀 up on the rooftop and felt her feet leaving him behind. Then she felt him grab her wrist ever so gently, which surprised her. She looked back at him and felt a sense of relief having someone to talk to about this. Uraraka. I came up here because I know how you feel, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said to her. I didn't know what to do when All Might retired. Something about his retirement and when I got captured by the villains just made me realize how different things are between me and Deku. It even made me realize that things between All Might and Deku aren't exactly what they seem. I can't even believe I'm saying this to you, but I'm glad Deku and I know about One for All. It helped settle things between us in a way that I wouldn't have expected. Uraraka stood there, letting 𝗵𝘃𝗀 talk it out to her. She couldn't look away as he talked things out with her. He wouldn't even let go of her wrist, which wasn't as tight as she thought it would be. He was gentle with her and didn't tighten his grip around her. I know things might seem a little tough right now between you and Deku, but you shouldn't break up over something as silly as this, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said to her. If anything, this should show you that things between you are much stronger than something as ridiculous as this DMN secret. Trust me, One for All is nothing to be scared of. I may not know much about it, but I do know that it's strong and different from a lot of other quirks. Things may have changed since the battle between Class 1A and B, but it's still Deku's quirk. Uraraka stood there, shocked that he would even say any of this to her. She almost spoke up, but pulled away when she remembered that overwhelming energy surge all around her. She tried to get away from 𝗵𝘃𝗀, but he held on to her. 𝗵𝘃𝗀. I know you mean well, but I just can't handle this. Izuku has All Might with him. He can handle this without me, Uraraka said to him. I just don't know if I can even handle something so overwhelming. I can't even imagine what I would have done if he hadn't jumped in to save me from that 0-pointer during the entrance exam. If anything, I need him way more than he needs me. 𝐸𝐴RICA slipped out of his hand and ran down the stairs, but not before opening the big heavy door. It was heavy and strong to open, but she got it nonetheless. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 watched her leave, and 𝐸𝐴RICA could feel it as she left him behind on the rooftop. As she left the rooftop, something inside of her felt hurt. More tears fell down her face as she left 𝗵𝘃𝐻 alone. During classes, 𝐸𝐴RICA stayed quiet the whole time. Midoriya never showed up during classes, making 𝐸𝐴RICA feel a little relieved that she didn't have to face him in that moment. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 however sat in the distance, and she couldn't help but stare at him while classes were going on. She kept thinking about what he said to her. She wondered if he was right, and she just being a little stubborn about the whole thing. 𝐸𝐴RICA did want to know what was going on with Midoriya after all. If anything, Midoriya deserved an apology for her spying on them. That meant she had to talk to him about this soon. She let out a sigh, knowing full well that things might get a little complicated between them. She wondered if Midoriya was feeling better at least and decided to check on him later. Right now, she needed a break from him. She got back to studying and felt a little better once she focused on her hero training. Once classes were over, everyone got ready for hero training in Gym Gamma. All of the girls kept glancing over at 𝐸𝐴RICA and worried about her. 𝐸𝐴RICA could tell that everyone wondered what happened between her and Midoriya. They could tell that she went over to see him before classes, but no one dared to ask what they were doing. 𝐸𝐴RICA slowly put on her hero costume and soon let out a long sigh. Once she was all done, everyone soon looked at her with concern in her eyes. "Are you sure that you're okay, 𝐸𝐴RICA?" Gyro asked her. "Yeah. You look like you and Midoriya had a fight or something," 𝐜𝐴RICA pointed out. "I hope not." 𝐴𝐡𝐻 commented, "They are so cute together." 𝐸𝐴RICA, please don't tell me that you two are going to break up." Those words made 𝐸𝐴RICA flinch on the spot. 𝐸𝐴RICA didn't dare look at 𝐴𝐡𝐻 since she wasn't in the mood to deal with her right now. Something about 𝐴𝐡𝐻 mentioning them breaking up however really struck a nerve with her. She didn't want to even think about it, and yet she brought it up. 𝐸𝐴RICA really did wonder if her and Midoriya should just be friends. Something about it however made her stomach hurt just thinking about it. 𝐸𝐴RICA couldn't even talk to them about any of this since it had to do with One for All. She still didn't even fully understand it herself, but she wasn't one to go around spreading rumors. She will keep it a secret, but she didn't know what this meant for her and Midoriya. "I don't want to talk about it, okay?" 𝐸𝐴RICA said to them, "Can we just focus on hero training?" 𝐴𝐡𝐻 was about to say something, but then Yaoyorozu jumped in to stop her from speaking up. Once they were all done, they headed out of the changing room. The girls soon spotted the guys coming out of the changing room and headed towards Gym Gamma. For a moment, 𝐸𝐴RICA felt like something was off. She didn't know what it was that was bothering her, but she stopped walking and looked back at the nurse's office. She felt something surge around her, but it was very subtle. It felt like a static electricity went up and down the hair on the back of her neck. They all seemed to notice 𝐸𝐴RICA, but 𝗵𝘃𝐻 was the only one who spoke up. "I'm sure Deku is fine. You can check on him after," 𝗵𝘃𝐻 said to her. "No. That's not it," 𝐸𝐴RICA said back to him. 𝐸𝐴RICA looked further into the school, and 𝗵𝘃𝐻 noticed that she looked a bit distraught. She looked like she was about to take off running towards the nurse's office. Class 1A waited for her, but then walked over to her worried about something. "Something's wrong." 𝐸𝐴RICA and everyone else heard something in the distance. It sounded like something had crashed, and they even felt something rumbling through the school hallways. It felt like an earthquake, only it wasn't one. 𝐸𝐴RICA's eyes widened in shock, knowing full well what was going on. Without thinking, she ran towards the nurse's office. 𝐸𝐴RICA! Stop! Ida called out, "You don't know what's going on." 𝐸𝐴RICA didn't say anything, and everyone ran after her. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 tried to keep up with her, but she somehow got a lot faster recently. She kept going, and everyone else worried about her as they got closer to the nurse's office. Once they got close enough, 𝐸𝐴RICA noticed the nurse's office's walls crumbled onto the ground. Her feet stopped in their tracks, causing everyone to stumble and stop running. Her heart skipped a beat and looked around the area. The door had flown off its hinges and the wall had blown apart from some sort of force. Uraraka could feel something coming from the nurse's office as she got a closer look. Before she knew it, she ran after Midoriya knowing full well what going on. Bakugo tried to stop her from going inside, but she beat him to it. She stopped in her tracks when she felt a sudden burst of wind coming out of the nurse's office. She almost felt like she was going to go flying into the wall behind her. Her eyes widened in shock to see Midoriya in the air with wind pressure bursting out of his arm again. The walls around the nurse's office were being blown away by his quirk and all of the nurse's supplies, shelves and cabinets were being torn off of the walls. Uraraka noticed that Midoriya was trying to stop it from getting worse, but One for All wasn't responding to him. Uraraka could tell that it hadn't gotten any better than last time. She had to do something to help him out of this situation. Then she felt that surge of energy coming over her and took a step back. Something about it felt a little bit overwhelming, and her heart was racing as she faced him. Something about his quirk felt different even though nothing had changed. She didn't understand why she was feeling this way towards him. Uraraka cared so much about him, and she couldn't let this get to her, and yet something about his quirk was giving her chills. Midoriya was hovering above the floor and being pushed against the ceiling. He couldn't get away and was constantly being pushed into it from the wind pressure. All Might and Recovery Girl didn't know what to do in that moment and couldn't reach him. Uraraka noticed that it was hurting Midoriya as he squeezed his eyes shut. Tears formed around his eyes as he tried to shut off his quirk. Then he opened them, and he locked eyes with her. He hadn't even noticed her until just now. Uraraka felt something inside of her snap out of it once his eyes met hers. Without thinking, she ran towards him. Before she even knew it, she turned on her quirk and jumped over to him. She reached out to him just like that time during the Class 1B battle. They felt like they were both still there during the Class 1B battle. She clung onto him and tried to calm him down. "Izuku. I'm right here." Uraraka cried out, "I'm not going anywhere." She embraced him, feeling that surge of power flowing all around him. It felt just like when he lost control in Gym Gamma. She looked around for something to latch onto and aimed her gauntlet right at something sticking out of the wall. She was about to shoot her cable cord out towards it, when she noticed Midoriya's quirk acting up. In the corner of her eye, she spotted black WHP coming out of his arm. Chills ran up and down her back as it shot out at everyone. It almost hit her right in the face, but only grazed her cheek. "Izuku. You've got to calm down." Uraraka cried out, "Let me help you. I can't. And my quirk. It won't respond to me." Midoriya cried out through gritted teeth. Uraraka felt her stomach get a sick feeling as he held on to him to calm him down. She wanted to help him, but she didn't know what to do. She didn't have Quinsou with him like last time. She needed to help him calm down, something that might relax his quirk. She felt his quirk surging all over him and her as well as she tried to think of what to do. "One for all. Please stop." Midoriya cried out through the wind as it blocked out his voice, "You're hurting Ochako." Uraraka held onto him tightly, not wanting to let go of him. Just the thought of leaving him behind made her sick to her stomach. She couldn't believe that she even considered leaving him or even breaking up with him. She could never do that to him, not when he clearly needs her now more than ever. She could feel Midoriya's quirk running all over his body as she clung onto him. Something about it made her feel off, but she didn't back down. "Izuku. I'm going to run away from this. I needed you back then, so I'm going to help you now. I won't let you face this alone." Uraraka cried out. Midoriya's quirk didn't seem to lighten up, not even a little. It just kept letting out wind pressure, even more than last time. The nurse's office was practically crumbling away from the wind pressure. Uraraka held onto him so she wouldn't be blown away by it. She felt herself get blown away for a moment, but had to cling onto him so she wouldn't be flown into the wall. "One for all, stop it. Why are you doing this?" Midoriya cried out. "Zero. Use your tape to keep him from getting away." 𝐸𝐻𝐸 cried out. 𝐬𝐸 didn't question her and tried his best to shoot out tape around him. He could barely get it to attach to him just because of the wind pressure. Soon enough, he wrapped tape around both of his legs so he couldn't get away. Black WHP kept trying to shoot out at them, but Class 1A managed to stay away from them. One almost hit 𝐸𝐸, but Kaminari got her out of the way. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed him tearing up from the pain and held him close. She couldn't even believe that this was happening to him again. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 knew that she had to help him somehow. She pulled him in close to her, hoping that his quirk would calm down soon. 𝐻𝐡𝐤, I've got you, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said to him. I won't leave you behind, and not when you look like you need saving. The pads on her fingertips glowed pink, causing something to change. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed that they were glowing as she held on to him and didn't even activate them. Then she realized that the wind pressure seemed to fade away. Soon enough, everything that was in the air or being blown around fell to the floor. Midoriya and 𝐸𝐻𝐸 were still in the air, which shocked everyone. Black WHP wasn't even holding him up, he was just hovering there like he was flying or something. 𝐸𝐻𝐸's quirk was still glowing as Black WHP seemed to loosen up more and more. They seemed to relax and become less tense and soon disappeared into Midoriya's arm. Soon enough, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 felt Midoriya fall towards the floor as she floated in place. For a moment, All Might turned into his buff form and caught him just in time. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed that her fingertips were glowing pink still. She didn't know what this meant at the moment, but she soon turned off her quirk. She landed pretty softly onto the floor, but felt a little dizzy doing so. Once she shook it off, she ran over to All Might. He soon de-transformed back into his skinny form, which caused him to lose his grip around Midoriya. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 and 𝗵𝘃𝗀 helped him out and noticed that he was unconscious. He was breathing heavily and sweating from the sudden burst of energy. He still looked pale, but no different than before. What just happened? Iida cried out as waved his arm up and down. That's exactly what happened in Gym Gamma the other day. His fever is doing that to him. Shouldn't he go to a hospital or something? Yaoyorozu cried out. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 got worried about Midoriya himself, but she had a feeling that him going to the hospital wouldn't do him any favors. She had to make sure that he was okay. 𝗵𝘃𝗀 was right, she couldn't leave him behind. He needed help, and she would never be able to forgive herself for leaving him behind when he needed her the most. She held on to him tightly as 𝗵𝘃𝗀 helped her out with him. They settled him down onto a bed that All Might fixed for them. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 made sure that he was comfortable and felt his forehead while All Might handled their classmates. He was still very hot and sweaty, but something felt different. His quirk for some reason felt lighter and more relaxed. It felt like when they danced during the winter dance. Something about it made her feel so much lighter as she brushed his bangs out of his face. She felt like something had clicked with her quirk as she held his hand. She looked down at her hand, feeling a sense of relief. Something about her quirk felt a little lighter than usual. It felt like something had changed in that moment. Her quirk felt much more open and lighter. "Ha! Weird," 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said under her breath. 𝗵𝘃𝗀 tried to settle everyone down, but that didn't seem to help at all. Iida wasn't settling down anytime soon, but All Might kept them from asking any more questions. Even Recovery Girl was trying to settle everyone down. "Everyone, let us handle this," Recovery Girl said to them. "This is nothing we can't handle. We'll get 𝐸𝐸𝗠 to clean this up. All of you I'm sure are worried about Midoriya, but I assure you I've dealt with much worse." "Much worse?" Class 1A all cried out in unison. But Recovery Girl. "There's a hole in your office." Iida cried out, "This isn't something that you just ignore. We need to do something about this." "There's nothing we can do," 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said back with a slight growl. "Like she said, 𝐸𝐸𝗠 and Recovery Girl will handle it. All Might and the teachers will handle what just happened here." Everyone was surprised to see 𝗵𝘃𝗀 handling this really well, all things considered. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 didn't even look up as she held Midoriya's hand. All she wanted to do was stay by Midoriya's side to help him out. Whatever it took, she would help him out of this mess. She leaned in closer to him and could still feel that subtle surge of power flowing through him. It was building up again. Only this time, she wasn't going anywhere. All of you should head to Gym Gamma. Tell Mr. Aizawa what's going on, All Might explained to them. If he still wants you all to hero train, then you can come see young Midoriya tomorrow. We can't have young Midoriya getting stressed out here. Ida and the others wanted to argue, but no one had anything else to say. They all headed out, but Ida noticed that Uraraka hadn't moved from her spot Midoriya's bed. Even Bakugo stayed put to watch over Midoriya. Aren't you guys coming? Ida asked mostly Uraraka. Uraraka looked up and realized that Ida was talking to her. She didn't even realize that they were leaving. Even Bakugo stayed in the crumbled-up nurse's office. She looked down at Midoriya and knew that this was her time to find out what's going on with Midoriya. She had to know, and now was the time to help him out. She couldn't leave now, not when Midoriya needed her the most. You guys go ahead. I need to stay with Izuku, Uraraka said to him, he needs me. I'll look after them for a bit. Looks like All Might and Recovery Girl here need help cleaning up around here, Bakugo said to them. Ida hesitated to leave them here, but soon left along with all of their classmates. Uraraka felt herself relax when they all left. Something about it felt like she could finally relax along with Bakugo. It made her realize that he had to keep this a secret for a while now. She didn't know for how long, but something told her that he might have just found out not that long ago. She held Midoriya's hand, feeling that same surge of energy flowing through him. It was subtle, but it still made her skin crawl. Uraraka sat there, knowing full well that things between them were now pretty different. She wanted to be there for Midoriya, and she wasn't going to let some ridiculous secret come between them. Besides, she already somewhat knew that One for All was his quirk. She let out a long sigh, feeling like she could finally get to the bottom of this. So, I'm guessing all of you know about One for All. Uraraka asked them, it's Izuku's quirk, isn't it? All Might flinched once Uraraka mentioned it. She noticed that Bakugo was still getting used to her talking about it. Even Recovery Girl was surprised to find out that she knew about it and looked at Bakugo. Bakugo didn't say anything. I kind of eavesdropped on All Might and Izuku earlier during lunchtime, Uraraka explained as she scratched the back of her head, it's not his fault. I just wanted to be there for Izuku. Then Uraraka turned to All Might and something about her felt a little more confident. She didn't look away from him as she faced him. I'm sorry All Might, but I'm not going anywhere. Whatever Izuku's going through, you can't keep him away from me, Uraraka said to him, I deserve to know what's going on with him and his quirk. I've been his friend ever since I came to this school, and all I ever wanted was to help him out. I could always tell that there was something special about him, even if I didn't realize it at the time. But now, so much has changed. Whatever One for All is, I want to be there for him even if you think otherwise. Recovery Girl gave All Might a glare, which caused him to get defensive. All Might, what did you tell the boy? Recovery Girl asked him, you better not have gotten in between these two. You were never good with romance and girls, now and back then. No, nothing. I just didn't want their relationship to get in between One for All and his hero training, All Might explained a little defensively. I know that their relationship is important to him, but he still needs to make sure One for All is kept under wraps. All Might then felt her cane hit his shin, causing him to wince in pain. All Might. Don't you dare be the reason these two get into trouble. If they break up, it'll be because you put too much on the poor boy, Recovery Girl demanded. Yes, Recovery Girl. I'll be more careful, All Might said back. Recovery Girl let out a long sigh and turned to face Uraraka. Sorry about him, Uraraka, Recovery Girl said to her, he still needs to learn when and when not to interfere with other people's business. Uraraka held onto Midoriya's hand, and she felt a sense of relief as he held it. She could still feel that subtle energy flowing through his arm, but tried to ignore it. It's okay. I'm sure he was just nervous about Izuku and One for All, Uraraka said back and trailed off. She then stared at Midoriya's hand, which caught All Might's attention. Even Bakugo noticed how she looked at him. Something about it made him wonder if she noticed something that they didn't for some reason. So what is One for All exactly? All I know is that it's Izuku's quirk, but that's about it, 𝐸 said to him. 𝐵𝑘𝐸 makes it seem like it's different from a lot of other quirks. Why is that? Is it because of black WHP or something? 𝐸 could tell that All Might was a little nervous telling her the truth. Recovery Girl gave him a glare, which made him stiffen up. She deserves to know, All Might. You have friends that know about One for All as well. Midoriya here deserves to have that luxury as well, Recovery Girl said to him. 𝐵𝑘𝐸 knows, why can't 𝐸? 𝐸 sat up straight, wondering if he would actually answer that question. He clenched his fists and hesitated to say anything. I'm sorry 𝐸. It's different when it's someone that the successor cares about in a romantic way, All Might explained to her. 𝐵𝑘𝐸 may know about One for All, but he came up to young Midoriya asking for answers to my retirement. But with you, All Might trailed off, looking at Midoriya and then back at 𝐸. Something about his eyes gave her a slight uncomfortable feeling to them. Whatever this One for All was, it definitely made her wonder what was going on when she wasn't around him. She gripped onto Midoriya's hand, feeling a little nervous for him. Ever since you two started dating, he's been more focused on you than actually hero training. He's been lacking focus and hasn't improved his quirk all that much since then, All Might said to her. If this keeps up, he won't be able to catch up with One for All's power. I know that you two care about each other, but he needs to focus on hero training and studying so he can become a better hero. All of people should know that. 𝐸 eyes widened in shock as All Might kept going on about their relationship. She let go of Midoriya's hand and stood up to face All Might. That's not true. He's been doing great with hero training, 𝐸 said back. Besides, other things have been going on as well. Not just us dating. Things may have gotten a little during that body swap incident, but nothing else has changed. He's been doing great during hero training. Trust me, I've been there, and he's doing just as good as anyone else. That's just it. One for All is growing and evolving, All Might explained to him. His quirk is unique and different from everyone else's quirks. Then explain it to me. I deserve to know what's going on with my boyfriend, 𝐸 said back, standing her ground, and I'm not leaving until I do. 𝐸 crossed her arms, waiting for a response from All Might. He stood there, and she wondered if he would actually go through with it. 𝐵𝑘𝐸 walked over to 𝐸, which surprised her. Sorry All Might, but I agree with her, 𝐵𝑘𝐸 said back to him. She's been right there by Deku's side for long enough. If anyone deserves to know, it's her. 𝐸 eyes widened, shocked to see 𝐵𝑘𝐸 side with her on this one. Even if they were friends, it still surprised her that he was okay with letting in on this secret. He seemed like someone that would be annoyed with someone else knowing about a secret that no one else should know about. She was glad that someone like 𝐵𝑘𝐸 was finally her friend. She couldn't help but smile at him and wondered if All Might was going to back down. All Might let out a sigh and guided 𝐸 over to the chair that she was sitting on. She sat down, and All Might pulled up a chair nearby. 𝐵𝑘𝐸 stood up, but stayed nearby to help out with anything. 𝐸 could tell that All Might didn't exactly know where to start. She was surprised when 𝐵𝑘𝐸 started to tell her the truth. For starters, Deku wasn't born with this quirk. He was quirkless back then, way before you and I even met on that trail, 𝐵𝑘𝐸 told her. He's always been quirkless. I might have made fun of him for it, but that's besides the point. 𝐸's eyes widened in shock, just from that alone. She had no idea that 𝐵𝑘𝐸 would tell her that of all things. Midoriya, her boyfriend, was quirkless and always was. She was now confused however and wondered what this One for All quirk was if he was quirkless. Wait, quirkless? But then what's One for All exactly? 𝐸 asked them both. Are you telling me that someone gave him a quirk? All Might and 𝐵𝑘𝐸 looked surprised for some reason, and she wondered if it were true. Even Recovery Girl looked impressed. Wow! She catches on pretty fast, Recovery Girl said to them. All Might let out a sigh and slumped his shoulders in defeat. Fine. Yes, it's exactly what it seems, All Might said to her. The person who gave him One for All was me. I met a long time ago before I met any of you at you. 𝐸's eyes widened in shock, but for some reason it didn't seem as shocking as she thought it would be. If anything, it just clicked things into place and made things make more sense. She felt like she could finally put the pieces together. That's why you two are so close. You two even have lunch together a lot, 𝐸𝗏𝐼𝐸 said back, but I didn't know quirks could be given to someone, unless this is a special quirk. That must be why it's so different from all of the others, and why you're keeping it a secret. Yes. That is exactly what it is, All Might said to her, which is why I didn't want so many people knowing about it. There's a way that you can exchange one for all. I gave it young Midoriya because I saw someone that was quirkless jump in to help a friend when they were in trouble. I knew right then and there that he'd be a great hero someday, All Might said to her. I had him train for a long time picking up trash on a beach that was covered in it. He stuck to a diet and exercise so that he could handle a strong quirk like this. 𝐸𝗏𝐸 couldn't believe that he had done all of that. She looked at him and was surprised that he was able to pull that off, even without his quirk. Then she realized something in that moment. She remembered that day when she met him at the U front gate. She remembered how nervous he was during the entrance exam. So, when I met him he hadn't used it, had he? 𝐸𝗏𝐸 asked him. This was his first time ever using it. Yes. It was, All Might said to her. The exercise and diet schedule was kind of on a tight schedule at the time. I didn't have time to train with it fully, but luckily it turned out okay. If you call breaking his arms and legs turning out okay, then I'd hate to know what it doesn't turn out okay, Recovery Girl said to him. All Might scratched the back of his head, feeling a little nervous around her at the moment. Then 𝐸𝗏𝐸 witnessed All Might pull off a hair from his head, which she didn't expect. One for all is strong, and a very specific type of quirk. The only way to exchange it is by swallowing some of my DNA, All Might said to her, so I gave him a piece of my hair. 𝐸𝗏𝐸 couldn't help but blush at how random and uncomfortable that made her feel. Then, for some reason, her mind wandered, which made her face turn red even more. She looked at Midoriya frantically and back at All Might and 𝗵𝗃𝗀. What? 𝐸𝗏𝐸 cried out as she covered her mouth. Don't tell me that I have one for all now. All Might. You better not tell me that I can't embrace him anymore. Don't even go there. All Might's face turned a little red and stumbled a little on his words. Even 𝗵𝗃𝗀 felt his face turn red from the thought of them and exchanging one for all by accident. And no. It doesn't work that way. All Might cried back and tried to calm down. It isn't something that can just be taken by force, but you can give it to someone if you needed to. Don't worry about it. You'd know if you had it right away. 𝐸𝗏𝐸 couldn't help but look at her hand in that moment, wondering what one for all felt like. She looked at Midoriya and wondered what that was all about just now. She felt something weird and different about her quirk not that long ago. It felt lighter than usual, as if something happened to it when she helped Midoriya. She thought in that moment that maybe it was one for all, but it couldn't be. Is something wrong, young 𝐸𝗏𝐸? All Might asked her. 𝐸𝗏𝐸 snapped out of it and realized that she had been staring at her hand for a while now. She shook it off, but wondered if she should mention it to him. Well, earlier when One for All was acting out, I felt something different about my quirk, 𝐸𝗏𝐸 explained to them. When I was trying to calm down Izuku, it activated without me even realizing it. It felt different and lighter than usual. My quirk, it seemed to calm down Izuku's quirk for some reason. All my quirk can do is make things weightless. There's no way that it could actually calm down One for All, right? When 𝐸𝗏𝐸 looked up, All Might looked a little shocked that this even happened. Even 𝗵𝗃𝗀 didn't know what to make of this. Recovery Girl even seemed a little interested in what 𝐸𝗏𝐸 had to say about her quirk. Your quirk does seem to respond well to emotions as well, Recovery Girl explained to her. Your emotions could have accidentally activated it without realizing it. When it comes to your quirk's power, it's definitely not something that would normally do that. It's possible that it has either adapted or evolved without you realizing it, All Might explained to her. Being around young Midoriya all the time could have definitely affected it in some way. When it comes to One for All, however, I've never known it to affect someone secondhand. My MSTR never had that happen with One for All, and neither have I. Then again, I didn't have someone like you two do. Uraraka really did start to wonder if One for All affected her quirk in some way. She just hoped that it didn't make her sick like Midoriya right now. She couldn't afford to be floating around and sneezing in the air. You don't think that I could be sick like Izuku here, do you? Uraraka asked him. I just have to make sure Izuku gets better, and I can't do that while being sick. Recovery Girl walked over to her and checked her over real quickly. She felt her forehead and checked her over just to be sure. It took a moment, but Recovery Girl came to a conclusion. Well, you definitely don't feel like you have a fever, Recovery Girl said back. You don't look pale, and you seem fine. I'd say that you should be in the clear. If you feel dizzy or anything weird, you should come to me just to be sure. Uraraka nodded, knowing full well that she was fine. She then looked up at Bakugo, which made him flinch a little. Uraraka wondered if there was anything going on between All Might, Bakugo and Midoriya. Something told her that this wasn't everything that was going on. There was else something that they haven't gotten around to explaining. Uraraka looked at Midoriya's peaceful-looking face and wondered what he was dreaming about. Something told her that he was going through something. She could still feel a subtle energy flowing all around him. There's something else going on, isn't there? Uraraka asked them. I can feel something flowing through Izuku. I wasn't sure until just now, but I've been able to feel it ever since the winter dance. I didn't realize it until just now, but something about it feels different. Bakugo and All Might weren't expecting her to notice any of this. The fact that she could feel One for All definitely brought up concern. Then again, she always hanging out with him ever since they got together. She could just be sensitive to One for All for some reason. All Might thought about it for a moment, making everyone wonder what he was thinking. Bakugo looked at him, and Uraraka could tell that he didn't know what to make of this. This is interesting. No one should be able to feel One for All besides me and young Midoriya, All Might said to them. I can only feel it inside of him here and there, but barely. It only happened recently, however, ever since Black WHP came up. Then All Might stopped in his tracks, and then looked at Midoriya with concerned eyes. Uraraka noticed right away and wondered if there was something else going on with his quirk. Whatever what Black WHP was, she could tell now that it wasn't originally a part of One for All. She still didn't understand it fully, but Black WHP might have been something entirely different. What's wrong, All Might? Bakugo asked him. Is it? Uraraka looked at them, and she knew that something was wrong. What? What is it? Uraraka asked, a little concerned for Midoriya. All Might and Bakugo shared a look, and Uraraka could tell that there was still a lot more to come. Whatever One for All was going through, Uraraka wanted to help Midoriya. She gripped her fists, ready to help him in any way that she could. All Might, Bakugo, please tell me. I need to know exactly what's going on with Izuku, Uraraka said to them with a confident glare. They both hesitated, and All Might let out a sigh. Recovery Girl gave them both a shrug, knowing full well that there was no point in keeping this a secret any longer with her. You might as well tell her, Toshinori, Recovery Girl said to him. There's no reason that she can't know about what's going on with One for All. Uraraka could tell that he was hesitant about getting her involved. He looked at Midoriya and noticed that his fever wasn't going down at all. He was sweating a lot, and he was still pale. Nothing had changed, and they needed to do something about it soon. Uraraka's eyes looked ready to help, and he let out a sigh. All right, young Uraraka. There's something that you don't know about One for All. Ever since the Class 1B battle, Midoriya's quirk has been evolving and changing into something completely different. When he lost control of Black WHP, I looked into the predecessors of the past One for All holders. What I found is that young Midoriya here is going to be getting all of their quirks soon. All Might told her. Young Midoriya even told me that he spoke to the one who once had Black WHP during the Class 1B battle. Uraraka's eyes widened in shock, but Bakugo seemed not surprised at all. She felt her heart skip a beat and needed to catch her breath for a moment. She looked at Midoriya, realizing what was happening to him. Wait a minute. Are you saying what I think you're saying, All Might? Uraraka asked him with concern in her eyes. Yes. Young Midoriya is going to get 6 quirks, including black WHP. I believe this is what is making him sick. In the hallways, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 walked away from the nurse's office, feeling a little bit tired from everything that All Might told her. She just kept thinking about a few things that he had told her. She looked at her hand, wondering how things might turn out with Midoriya and One for All. Whatever this Quirk was doing to him, she had to be there for him. All Might told them to get some rest, but 𝐸𝐻𝐸 was hesitant to leave him. After what he told her about One for All and all of those quirks that were showing up, she didn't want to leave him now. Not when things were finally unfolding right in front of her. She wanted to be there for her, but All Might was right. They both had to get some sleep. They could see him afterwards. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed that 𝗵𝘃𝐻 was quiet for a long time as they walked down the hallway. She even forgot that she was wearing her hero costume along with 𝗵𝘃𝐻. They were actually going to go do some hero training before any of this happened. She let out a sigh, which caught 𝗵𝘃𝐻's attention. Deku will be fine. He's strong and stubborn, 𝗵𝘃𝐻 said to her, he won't a silly fever get to him. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 hesitated to say anything and remembered how different his quirk felt. She held up her hand as if she could still feel that subtle energy coming off of him. It felt less soft and light, and more heavy and agitated. It felt like something was bothering One for All. She could tell that this fever was because of One for All at this point. 𝗵𝘃𝐻, I don't think it's as simple as that, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 said to him, didn't you feel that energy as well? You hang out with Izuku too just as much as me. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 stopped for a moment and thought about it. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 could tell that he was really trying to feel something, but nothing came up. He looked frustrated and didn't know what to do about it. No. I don't feel anything, 𝗵𝘃𝐻 said back, how is it that you feel One for All, and I don't? If it's true what All Might said, then I should be able to feel it as well. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked down at her hand, remembering how different her quirk felt. When she touched Midoriya, something felt much more lighter than usual. It felt like she had somehow gotten through to One for All. She didn't understand it herself, but something about it made her feel stronger. Well, maybe I'm just more sensitive to its power for some reason, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 explained to him, besides, something happened with my quirk. I don't what, but it feels lighter somehow. I don't even know how I helped Izuku back there. It just kind of happened. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 looked up at 𝗵𝘃𝐻, and he seemed like he was a little confused about the whole thing as well. She wanted to understand it herself, but maybe she just needed some rest first. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 didn't seem to have much to say about the matter. He stayed for a long time as they headed towards the changing rooms. They were the only ones in the school at the moment, so it was pretty quiet. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 noticed that 𝗵𝘃𝐻 was deep in thought about something. She didn't want to bother him, so she kept her distance. Whatever he was thinking about, she hoped that it was something that might help Midoriya. They soon entered their respective changing rooms and got dressed. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 got back into her usual school uniform and felt a little tired as she did it. She couldn't wait to get to the dormitory and have something to eat. She felt her stomach growling and realized that she was starving. 𝐸𝐻𝐸 didn't want to leave Midoriya behind, but she promised him that she would be back soon. He didn't even wake up before she left. Once she got dressed, 𝐸𝐻𝐸 exited the changing room along with 𝗵𝘃𝐻. They soon left with their school bags and hero costume cases. Usually they would leave them in their classrooms, but because it was late, they decided to bring it with them. They walked back to the dormitory quietly and soon found themselves outside. The sun was setting, and she didn't even realize how late it was. The cherry blossom trees blew in the wind along with her chestnut brown hair. She felt so much better once she felt that breeze blow through her. It reminded her of when her and Midoriya stood there, admiring the cherry blossom trees not that long ago. They were so excited to start classes and hero training in the spring. Now this happened, and she couldn't help but feel upset. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 seemed to notice and stopped walking to look at them with her. 𝗵𝘃𝐻, do you really think that Izuku will be okay? 𝐸𝐻𝐸 asked him, I mean, I know that he's strong. But One for All, it's kind of scary and intimidating, isn't it? There's just something about it that gives me chills. 𝗵𝘃𝐻 didn't say anything, and 𝐸𝐻𝐸 didn't dare look up at him. She could tell that he contemplating on what she had just said as she stared at the cherry blossom trees. No. Not at all actually, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said to her, catching her attention. I mean, I can understand why you'd think that. There's something similar with one for all and all for one if that's you mean. 𝐸𝐻𝑚's eyes widened in shock, not expecting him to bring up that villain. She really didn't think that they were connected, but then again he did fight All Might a long time ago. Something about that fact made her realize that there really was more going on than she initially thought. She wanted to ask more about it, but then 𝗵𝘃𝗀 interrupted her. I don't want to tell you everything however. I think I should leave that up to Deku to tell you about the origins of One for All, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said to her. Besides, this is his secret after all. 𝐸𝐻𝑚 was surprised at how respectful 𝗵𝘃𝗀 was being towards Midoriya and One for All. Something about One for All just seemed to make 𝗵𝘃𝗀 realize how important Midoriya was. Whatever went down between them when he found out about the truth, she could tell that it knocked some sense into him. They stood there for a moment, just admiring the view. She felt like she was back on that mountain with him when they bodies. Something about this moment felt like they were finally friends. She leaned in closer, feeling a little bad that he had to keep this secret from everyone in Class 1A. He was the only one who knew when it came to their classmates. He couldn't tell anyone, not even Kirishima or anyone else for that matter. 𝗵𝘃𝗀, thank you for looking after Izuku for me when I couldn't, 𝐸𝐻𝑚 said to him. I really appreciate it. I know things can be a little complicated between you and Izuku, but you still kept this a secret. I know that must have been tough on you. I just hope that me knowing about One for All can help us become better friends. I want to help Izuku feel better, whatever it takes. 𝐸𝐻𝑚 looked at 𝗵𝘃𝗀 and felt a little uncomfortable staring at her like that. He scratched the back of his head, and all he could do was stare at the cherry blossoms trees. It took him a minute to look at her, but he still seemed a little awkward about it. It's not a big deal, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said back. I just didn't want things to get out of hand with a secret like this. But still. You kept it a secret from everyone. Some people would spread rumors about him and brag about it, 𝐸𝐻𝑚 said back. Izuku's quirk is clearly unique and rare. You really are a good friend, 𝗵𝘃𝗀. 𝗵𝘃𝗀's eyes widened in shock, and 𝐸𝐻𝑚 couldn't help but smile at him. He looked away, but 𝐸𝐻𝑚 noticed him blushing a little from embarrassment. She felt so relieved to see him and finally talk to him without fighting or starting an argument. Come on. Let's get going, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said to her. We're going to be late. 𝗵𝘃𝗀 and 𝐸𝐻𝑚 walked back to the dormitory together, feeling more relaxed than before. 𝐸𝐻𝑚 kept looking at 𝗵𝘃𝗀, remembering something that happened a while ago. She felt like she had to say something before heading inside. Look, 𝗵𝘃𝗀. I'm sorry for what happened earlier this morning, 𝐸𝐻𝑚 said to him. I was just so upset that I couldn't help Izuku. I wanted to help him out and find out what was going on. I'm sorry if I was too harsh with you. You didn't deserve that. You were just keeping a secret, and it wasn't even yours. 𝗵𝘃𝗀 stayed quiet for a good while. 𝐸𝐻𝑚 tried to get a good look at his face, but he kept it hidden. She worried about that he was upset or annoyed with her. She wouldn't blame him if he was considering he was just trying to help in his own way as well. She gripped onto her backpack, feeling a little worried that she messed up. It's fine. I can't blame you for wanting to know about something like this. Maybe next time though, don't go yelling about it in the school. We don't want everyone knowing about One for All and asking questions about Deku, okay? 𝗵𝘃𝗀 said back. 𝐸𝐻𝑚 was surprised to hear him sound so calm. She really thought that he would be annoyed with her. He really had changed ever since they bodies by accident. Something about this moment felt way more relieving for her than she expected. She couldn't help but smile as they headed back to the dormitory. Okay, later in the nurse's office, Midoriya stirred in his bed, feeling a little hot from the blankets. He was dreaming about his quirk losing control. It felt like wind was blasting out of his arms, and not just one of them this time around. He felt like he couldn't stop it from spreading, and it soon became a whirlwind of energy and strong winds. He felt it smack against his face as if stung and hurt his arms so much. He couldn't get One for All to calm down, even in his dreams. He could barely clutch onto one of his arms since it was bursting out of both of them. One for All, Midoriya mumbled in his sleep. Stop, you're hurting me. Midoriya felt like it was much stronger than in Gym Gamma. He felt like he was in the air, and he couldn't if he was being held up by Black WHP or the wind coming out of his arms. Black WHP had leaked out of his arms and were shooting out and into a bunch of different directions. He couldn't tell where he was, but he felt like he was outside, maybe even in the U campus area. He felt like he was accidentally creating a hurricane with One for All, and he couldn't do anything about it. One for All felt agitated and heavy as it shot out even more energy. He wanted to do something about it, but it wasn't letting him even move a muscle. He felt like he was stuck in the air. Hot tears fell down his face as he tried so strong to shut off his quirk. He really wished that someone like 𝐶𝐿 was here at the moment. Then he remembered the other person who was always there for him. Someone that jumped in there to help him calm down. 𝐻𝐸𝐻, I need you. Then for a moment, he felt something come over him. He thought he saw something glowing pink nearby. Then he felt a little more relaxed as One for All began to calm down somehow. He even noticed Black WHP become less tense, and more loose. He could feel his entire body relax from this pink glow alone. Something about it made him feel much more lighter than usual, just like Uraraka's quirk. His eyes shined seeing a glowing pink coming close to his chest. He felt like Uraraka was hugging him, and he closed his eyes feeling a sense of calmness. He didn't see her anywhere and yet, she felt close by. Like she was looking out for him. He felt tears run down his pale face, feeling One for All start to calm down. 𝐻𝐸𝐻, all he could see was a pink glow for a moment. Then it began to fade away, and he thought he saw shimmering rainbow colors in its place. It felt less agitated, but still heavy on his chest. One for All, before Midoriya could reach out to touch them, he felt something pull him away. He opened his eyes, feeling someone wake him up. He looked around to see All Might looking worried about him. Young Midoriya. Are you okay? You were talking in your sleep, All Might asked him. Midoriya blinked his eyes, trying to adjust to the lights in the nurse's office. He wiped his eyes, realizing that he was still sweating. He even had cried in his sleep and wiped them away. He tried to sit up, but felt dizzy just by doing that. All Might helped him up and gave him some cold water. Midoriya took a moment to drink some and sat there for a moment to relax. Then he realized what had happened before he passed out. His eyes widened, and he looked around to see 𝐶𝐿 fixing the office. Midoriya didn't see anyone else in the room besides him. Then he remembered seeing Uraraka's face when she jumped in to help him out. It reminded him of when she helped him during the Class 1B battle. 𝐻𝐸𝐻, where is she? Midoriya asked him. She left along with everyone else. You've actually been asleep for almost 8 hours now, All Might told him. Her and young Bakugo stayed behind for a bit while everyone else hero trained for a while. You were really knocked out cold for a while there. Luckily, young Uraraka helped you when she did. Midoriya slumped his shoulders, feeling a little upset that she wasn't here at the moment. He looked out the repaired window and noticed that it was early in the morning. It was still dark out, but he could tell that it was getting close to the sun rising. He really wanted to talk to her about something. What he was going through, he wanted her to know about One for All. If anyone deserved to know, it was her. She has helped him through so much, that it felt weird leaving her out of this for so long. He let out a sigh, hoping that All Might change his mind. All Might 𝐻𝐸𝐻 needs to know about One for All, Midoriya said to him. She deserves to know. She just helped me again. I can't keep this from her any longer. The next time she comes over I have to tell her. He hesitated to look up, but soon noticed All Might looking a little guilty for some reason. Recovery Girl gave All Might a look that told him something happened between them while he was out cold. Whatever it was, he had a feeling he already knew what it was. Young Midoriya. Young Uraraka already knows about One for All. I told her about it not that long ago, All Might confessed to him. Young Bakugo was here to help explain things as well. I'm sorry that you weren't conscious while this happened, but she was close to figuring it out anyway. Midoriya's eyes widened in shock, feeling a little disappointed that he wasn't around to hear them talk about it. He thought about it some more and realized that she could finally know about how he got it in the first place. He didn't know how much he told her, but he did feel relieved nonetheless. He really wondered what and how she thought about all of this now that it was finally out. He looked down at his hand, remembering how good it felt to have her near him. "Achiko, she must have been so worried about me," Midoriya said to him without realizing it. Did she say anything about one for all? Honestly, young Midoriya, I think she was more worried about you than anything at the moment. I can't blame her after what happened just now. She seems to understand why you kept it a secret, but you're going to have to talk to her about that, All Might said to him. At this point, she just wants to help you heal and feel better. He remembered the look on her face when she jumped in to help him out. When Uraraka jumped towards him, however, he felt a sense of calmness. Then he remembered something glowing pink, and then he was here waking up in bed. He felt like something clicked and then realized that Uraraka's quirk had done something to help him feel better. All Might, there's something going on with Achiko's quirk, there's something about it that's helping One for All heal, Midoriya said to him as he looked at his hand. I don't understand it myself, but something has changed, with both her quirk and mine. All Might's eyes widened in shock, and Midoriya could tell that something happened while he was out cold. Whatever they talked about, All Might knew something about Uraraka and her quirk. This is quite interesting, All Might said back as he thought about it. Both of your quirks seem to be evolving together. I've never heard of such a thing. Maybe it's because of One for All and what's going on with it at the moment. You rely on young Uraraka to the point where One for All might be relying on her as well. She did help calm you down after all a couple of times. It might be able to connect to her somehow or reach out to her quirk. Midoriya couldn't believe this, and he wondered what this could mean for One for All as a whole. With him gaining a few quirks, he wondered what was going on exactly. It's possible that's why her quirk is evolving as well, All Might said to him. She told me how it felt different ever since she helped you out. What's even weirder though is that she has been able to feel One for All around you ever since the winter dance. Midoriya's eyes never left All Might as he explained things. He couldn't believe what he was hearing, but something about it also felt really good. Something about the way it felt to dance with her came up. How good it felt to have her by his side, and how good it felt to be weightless and flying around with her. It felt just as calming as when she touched him just now with her quirk to help calm him down. Whatever you guys are going through, it seems that One for All and even her quirk have started to form a relationship as well, All Might explained to him. It seems as if your quirks trust each other that much that One for All is reaching out for some help. It's even possible that it helped evolve young Uraraka's quirk into something much stronger. Midoriya clenched his fists, wondering what this could possibly mean for the both of them. He remembered the dream he had and placed his hand onto his chest. He remembered how good it felt to have her nearby when she helped him calm down. Even if she wasn't in his dream, she felt like she was close by. All Might, what are you trying to say exactly? Midoriya asked him. Young Midoriya, she might be the only way to heal One for All.